Hello, everybody, and welcome to the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit. This is the EU qualifier number 2. My name is TJ. I am joined today with Aquablad. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, dude. We got some great players in this tournament today. Some known faces from both the EU scene and the Asian scene. But it's actually two EU players and two Asian players. So it's going to be kind of like a battle between EU and Asia.
Yeah, it should be a really fun day. These guys are competing for $250 worth of prizes. They're competing for 17 Hearthstone World Championship points, as well as those Geico points, which could get them invited to the feature tournaments and all that nonsense. So Geico is we're lucky enough to have Geico as our main sponsor for this. They made it possible for us to have a $60,000 prize pool for the summer circuit. This is one of the premier open tournaments. It is the biggest and the largest prize pool open circuit throughout the entire course of the summer. We're going to have 16 open qualifier tournaments throughout the summer, and those are going to lead into the 4 feature 8-man tournaments, and it's going to be rounded off by the grand final, which is going to be happening at PAX Prime. So each week, we're going to have players from North America and EU competing in these opens, and we're going to broadcast the top 4. And then at the end of the 2-week period, at the end of the 2 qualifiers, we're going to show those feature tournaments. So it's really cool to see more tournaments going towards that open structure and allowing players like Aquablad here to compete and to make a name for themselves. You were unfortunate enough to not make it through this time, but I'm sure you're still happy to watch and cast these players.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we had a very close game with Martin Creek from SK Gaming, where I got turn 8 Grom double inner rage to
Hmm.
finish me off. So. But yeah, this is an excellent opportunity for, like you said, these amateur players who want to make a name for themselves, who want to get some BlizzCon points, get a bit of prize money as well, but also the Geico points. It's a very excellent system because the Geico points award player consistency. Because
Yeah.
we all know that Hearthstone it can be a game which kind of can tip in favors of luck. And if you're unlucky one day, get some bad draws, you can get knocked out of a tournament pretty early. But Geico points, if you keep playing these tournaments and grind them out, you can get enough Geico points to get a spot at the LAN. So what I love about, like I said, with these points is it awards consistency and strong play.
Yeah, you can make it there without ever having to win, which is the cool thing. And these players today, uh, there's actually not too much of a difference between Geico points from first through fourth. So it's they're still going to be wanting to compete as much because the winner automatically gets invited to the feature tournament. But just making it this far is still good. Keep in mind that these players, this is basically the continuation of the Open. So the 4 players here are the top 4 that competed in the Open yesterday. So each of these players has already won 6 or 7 best of 5s and beaten 6 or 7 players to get to the point where they are. So impressive stuff so far. Also, we want to give you guys a quick reminder. Make sure you head over to geico.onog.gg. You go to the website, you get all the information about the tournament. You can also enter in a giveaway for an official TSM PC. And you can get a quote from Geico and, of course, save on your car insurance. And that TSM PC is pretty sick. You can actually look at the specs, and I can already say that it's probably about 5 times as good as my computer. So again, make sure you head on over there and support what Geico's been doing with esports. But yeah, I guess we can start talking about the first matchup here. Buckbeard versus KDG. We know a little bit about these players. Aquablad, why don't you give a brief introduction for these guys?
So Buckbeard is from Greece. He plays for a team called Light Wizards. Couldn't find out much about them, so maybe after the event you can give us a heads up on what those guys are about. But yeah, he's been playing a lot of trading card games over his competitive lifespan, and Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like that. He also plays poker, and he's a forex. He's a currency trader, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. KDG, on the other hand, he's a player from South Korea, and he's friends or practice partners with Kranich and Rennie Hour. So 2 players from all the way across the world. And I wish I had more cards on the EU servers so I can participate a little bit more in EU tournaments. But it's really cool to see guys from everywhere. There was actually a North American player that won the EU circuit number 1. So
So it looks like Buckbeard is leading this mid-range hunter into mid-range druid. So he must be pretty happy with this match because oh, it looks. This is strange actually. It's got Sludge Belcher and a Leponome. So maybe he's still going for that hybrid build that's been really popular recently, but adding a bit more of a mid-range flair to it with the Sludge Belchers and the Knife Juggler. Not Knife Juggler, sorry, the Dr. Boom.
Yeah, I really like the hunter matchup in this one. I feel like the slower the hunter is, the better chance that it can deal with the druid. Now, this can always be sort of negated if the druid gets an explosive start, like we see with the wild growth or with a big invade play. But things like freezing trap can be so hard for druids to deal with without like force of nature already in their hand. So.
Yeah, the freezing trap is what really swings the tempo in the hunter's favor here because all of the druid's drops are usually quite big. But it looks like KGG is going to get a keeper here, and sending a keeper back to your hand is probably one of the best options here for a druid.
Yeah. Yeah, and the curve out here for Buckbeard is really not that great. Piloted Shredder makes it a little bit better, but getting your big drops in your hand is not what you want to see. And that's one of the downfalls of the more mid-rangey hunters is sometimes they don't hit the curve. That's just how it is. Sometimes they get the big drops in the hand. Sometimes in your opening hand you have high mains, and that's one of the downfalls of it. Of course, with aggro hunter or the more face hunter, you rarely have a bad curve, but sometimes you just do with these slower hunters.
And that's an excellent top deck for Buckbeard there. Gets another Shredder, help fill out his curve. But an interesting play from KGG there. He didn't attack. He didn't test the trap at all. I'm not quite sure what he's considering there. I mean, I guess he's still trying to... I mean, once you see the Shredder, I think you should strongly consider that it is mid-range hunter and it's going to be a freezing trap. And sending that keeper to his hand is a lot better than sending the Druid of Claw back to his hand. So it's an interesting play from him there.
Yeah. He might be thinking that he wants to freeze one of these treants, but he's mousing over something else, and this would be probably the only turn that he would be able to do that. And sometimes you can't really afford to wait on the freezing trap. All right, there you go. He attacks in, sees it's freezing, and like you said, throwing the keeper back to your hand is one of the best things that you could do because the battle cry is so effective.
Oh wow, Forsen here. This is such a great card for Druid, making that combo a little bit more dangerous because they can cast it early and get that damage. But another problem that Buckbeard will have here, he doesn't have a beast for his kill command activator, so clearing out this Forson might be a bit of trouble for him.
Yeah. The Knife Juggler Snake Trap combo could be pretty good. A lot of people don't expect Snake Trap now because a lot of hunters, even mid-range hunters, have sort of been phasing it out. Usually they go with like 2 freezing and an explosive or just 2 freezing. So the Snake Trap is always that third trap that you never expect, but you always hate yourself when you attack into it and summon 3 snakes and you don't have a way to deal with it.
But Druid is one of those classes that has a very good way to deal with it with a swipe, but KGG doesn't have one right now, and he's actually going to use this kill command here to clear out this Druid of the Claw, but that Foroson's still going to stick around a bit. This is going to be a bit of trouble for...
Unless he gets the juggle. Oh, wow. Explosive Sheep is not what he wanted to see, though.
Yeah, but... yeah, that's a bit awkward. He had a really good juggle there, managed to clear the Foroson, but KGG is still looking pretty comfortable here. He's got some really strong options in his hand. But Buckbeard does too. I mean, all this late game stuff he drew quite early will get some use now. But who do you think's ahead here? Would you say just Buckbeard's ahead on board here, but KGG has some better options?
I think KDG is ahead. The Hunter didn't manage to put on much pressure early on, and I feel like missing the early curve, missing the 2 drops with Mad Scientist and Haunted Creeper, or even just Knife Juggler was a pretty big deal, because now the overall card quality, I think, going into this mid game is probably about even. Like each card probably has just about as much power as the other, but the KDG is going to have he's got a bigger hand, so it means that he's going to last longer, and I don't know, it just feels like as long as KDG can stabilize and get to the point where he can start threatening combo, it's going to be really tough for Buckbeard to be able to do much. And Leper Gnome doesn't help him that much.
Yeah, he got a really good board clear there. Just wiped out everything. And a Sludge Belcher, it's not going to do much here as well. Compared to what KGG has in his hand, I mean, he has a Sylvanas, he has another Taunt, he's got another Silence, and he's got two options with the Druid, Ancient of Law, to either heal or draw cards. It's KGG's so far ahead with hand advantage, and he just has a lot of ways to respond to anything Buckbeard's playing right now.
Yeah. The one problem might be the Dr. Boom, but he does have ways to deal with it, like this Sylvanas, and even Force of Nature as sort of just an emergency clear. He doesn't have the BGH in his hand, but pretty much once he gets through Dr. Boom, it's pretty much game over, because even if Buckbeard was to draw into like a high main, KDG has ways to do with that too. He's got Keeper of the Grove, and by that point he'll probably have board advantage. And Hunter's Mark is probably not what he wanted to see, because Hunter's Mark really isn't that effective against Sylvanas.
Yeah, not right now. I totally agree with you there. Once this Dr. Boom gets cleared up, it's going to be such an uphill battle for Buckbeard, because the Druid will have such an advantage with the power in his hand and developing his board. His board will always get stronger and stronger than Buckbeard's. And I don't think there's anything in mid-range Hunter at this point that can really deal with KDG.
Yeah.
So he's opting to go for face here. Maybe he's see if Buckbeard has recognized this now, maybe he just figured that he needs to close this game out as fast as possible. So taking a more aggressive stance with the only chance he has of winning. Whereas if he decided to start trading now or just try and fight for board, it just wouldn't help him at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. There's a certain stage in some games when you're playing Hunter where you just have to, or mid-range Hunter. With face Hunter, you just go face no matter what. But there's a certain point in mid-range Hunter where you have to start not worrying too much about the board and just try and get as much damage in as possible with your creatures as you can.
And you kind of hope for those quick shots, those kill commands, just to close things out.
Yeah. Well, I think he might try and go for... He could go for a 50-50... Oh, no. Ooh. I think he would have been able to go for a 100% steal on Dr. Boom if he had just attacked his Keeper into the bomb and then Keepered his own Sylvanas. But he gets it anyway with the bomb. So that was actually a little bit... Not risky, but there was always the chance that the bomb would go off and hit the Sylvanas and he'd steal the Boom. But that was the only way that play would backfire.
And he gets a 7-7 out of it, so he was a little bit lucky there. I mean, if it had gone the other way, Buckbeard would still have a 7-7 sitting there. But he used that, I think he was quite effective using that Force of Nature there. I think KDG has recognized now that this Hunter's run out of steam, so relying on combo to win is not as much of a big deal as it was, say, if the game had panned out differently. So, yeah, I do like he used that there to get the steal on the 7-7.
And it was a very low chance that that the bomb hit his Sylvanas and he stole Boombot instead of Dr. Boom. So it was a calculated risk, and he was still in the game even if Dr. Boom was stolen, because he would have had a decent sized board. He had Ancient of Lords in his hand to heal as sort of an emergency. And usually how I gauge my success in a Hunter matchup as a Druid is if I can draw with Ancient of Lords at any point and still pretty much be ahead in the game, you're in a great spot.
I mean, this high main's not going to make much of a difference here. We still see it. We see another Silence in KDG's hand, and he gets a really good trade here. It's looking so bleak for Buckbeard here. I mean, having to use his Hunter's Mark here on the 4-6 just to clear it is pretty terrible as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't even seen a swipe. We haven't even seen a swipe from KGG yet, and he's dominating this game. Like, a swipe is such a good card against Hunter sometimes, clearing up tokens, clearing up some of the smaller drops. But yeah, this is looking excellent for KGG right now.
He might feel like he has to try and kill Pilot of Shredder to maybe get like a Doomsayer or something. I don't know, because right now if he just goes face and plops high main down, there's 16 damage just staring at him on board. So he might just be calculating to see if just Savage Roar would be lethal, but he is actually going to try and attack into it to maybe get something. But this High Main's going to come down. It's his last card, and I don't think this High Main's going to be able to get in any swings.
I mean, look at his options here. Not only does he get the silence and a clean trade, he also gets a Belcher to follow back up to protect him even further.
Mm.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a concede after this last draw. Oh, quick shot. He can cycle.
Yeah, but even if he chains like quick shot to the face into quick shot to the face, puts him down to 10, puts him down to 8 with hero power, it's like, what can he possibly draw that's going to win him the match?
He's playing with optimism. We'll put it down to that.
Okay, yeah. He's going to quick shot, into Unleash, into Owl.
Oh, he doesn't even play the companion.
Yeah. So, he's actually on a draw to win. He's got 14 damage on board, so all he needs is a swipe or a Savage Roar or a Force of Nature. Harrison Jones is not it, but that's just another reason why Buckbeard's really far behind, because even if he does find a weapon to play, then it's just going to get put into a museum.
And even healed as well, just to secure that win even further.
Oh, man. Well, there's the Haunter Creeper and the Animal Companions that he wish he had on turn 2 and turn 3. All right, there's the concede, and Buckbeard's going to fall in game 1.
Yeah, KGG had a good start, whereas Buckbeard's was a lot slower. Like I said, he didn't get that Haunted Creeper, didn't get that Animal Companion. Unfortunately, he was stuck with a Sludge Belcher and a Dr. Boom quite early, which didn't really have any impact on the whole game at all, because he was so far behind on board at that point and resources. So KGG takes that game pretty comfortably, I say.
Yeah, it's all about that 2-drop. It's all about turn 2. If Druid has Wild Growth and Hunter whiffs the turn 2 by not having Haunted Creeper or Mad Scientist, it's really tough for the Hunter. The Druid has to have a lot of dead draws. They have to have a lot of dead things in their hand in order for the Hunter to come back from something like that. So KDG is going to get the win with the Druid out of the way. And he's got Mage and Rogue left.
So Rogue is more than likely going to be Oil Rogue, because it's the only viable Rogue deck in the meta right now. Mage, on the other hand, can be either Tempo Mage, it could be Freeze Mage. I mean, Freeze Mage is not brilliant at the moment, but, you know, it's still played, and you still got the option of those weird control mages. You've got the Dragon Control Mage Kibbler's been playing recently. There's the Control Mage that was quite popular with the... what's his name? The guy who makes you become Ragnaros. I can't remember his name.
Major Domo. Oh,
that's
man. Yeah, Major Domo Executus. That card. So I experimented with the Major Domo Mage for like 2 hours. And it was the hardest deck I've ever played in my entire life, and I lost nearly every game with it. And since then, I've like shelved it. I'm like, I'm never playing that guy again.
One of my teammates played it. Yeah, one of my teammates played it for a while, and he really enjoyed it. But like I said, it's very hard. There's a lot of very careful decisions and planning needed. But we're actually going to see the mid-range hunter come back again, and KGG is going to be rocking that Oil Rogue, and goes for an early South Sea deckhand here to contest any kind of low drops that's going to come from Buckbeard.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I like that. I do like it since he doesn't have a way to deal with the first drop that's going to come down. But okay, yeah. Using the Eviscerate here, the main thing I like to use the South Sea deckhands for are traps. Like, it's the perfect way to test for a freezing trap, because it's like 1 mana, it goes back to your hand, you can still combo with oil. So it's fantastic when you're trying to do that. So if I know that it's mid-range hunter, I won't throw it down on turn 1, because I want to save that for the trap. But he doesn't really have a way to deal with the first drop. He feels like he's going to be able to test him with trap anyway. And he attacks face, so he knows that it's actually snake trap. And this is problematic, because that was a knife juggler on board. He can't attack into it, because he's just going to get the juggles plus the snakes. This is super annoying.
Yeah, it's quite an awkward turn for KGG, really. I mean, what you can't, like you said, you can't attack into this knife juggler because you don't want those snakes going off, and he doesn't actually have an answer in his hand to deal with the snakes yet.
Yeah.
So, he's just used his eviscerate on the scientist. So he's going to be hoping to draw a backstab here, or maybe another eviscerate to deal with. I mean, even a fan of knives wouldn't be too bad, but he's still taking a few knives to the face. So, yeah, it's really a real awkward spot.
He has to sap the knife juggler. Sap is such an important card in this matchup. It's one of the reasons why people say Rogue is strong against mid-range hunter is because you can sap high mains. You can effectively waste an entire mid-game turn against mid-range hunter, and he has to use it on the knife juggler because he just has no way to deal with it. And now he can just replay it with the leper gnome, and he's right back into the same spot that he was last turn.
I don't even know if it's worth playing the sap there. Like you said, it's such an important tool for the rogue. They need it for those high mains, like to slow down the mid-range hunter coming into that, like those crucial turns of like low febs into high mains, etc. And I've seen in a couple of lists, and even the list I'm running right now, where I only run one sap at the moment, and so he's probably going to be hoping he finds another sap. But he does find that backstab,
Wow.
which we're talking about.
Such a ridiculous sequence of draws for KDG. If he didn't draw that sprint, if that card was literally anything else in his deck besides backstab, he pretty much lost the game. Like he had an Earthring Farseer and a Deadly Poison in his hand, which wasn't going to help him do much. But he had prep in his hand, draws into sprint, and then gets a backstab from it. So it allows him to deal with the knife juggler. But that was a scary early game for KDG.
Yeah, with some really good draws off that sprint, he's managed to recover. I mean, we were talking about how awful the sap was for him, but he's looking pretty good in his hand now. He can pop this snake trap at his leisure now because he has that fan of knives to deal with the snakes when they come out.
Yeah. Yep.
So Buckbeard here is considering a freezing trap here, just to keep the tempo, I think. He's got to consider... KGG is a rogue player. He's just drawn quite a few cards. He's going to be getting one of two Blade Flurries or one or two Fan of Knives, so he probably wants to protect this Snake Trap a little bit until it becomes a little bit more useful.
Yeah. Buckbeard does have both Savannah high mains, and he can feel a little bit more comfortable about playing them on the board just because he knows that one sap is gone. Not sure if he runs two. It's a possibility that he runs two, and considering how easily he threw the first one away, I can imagine he runs two. But yeah, he's going to be feeling pretty confident. And this is a very clean Fan of Knives clear. He does have to take some damage for it, but he knows that that's okay because he had a pretty decent early game.
And he's packing two Earthen Ring Farseers in his hand, so he's got 6 points of healing coming up when he needs it. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. I mean, this freezing trap will be a little problematic for a while. Depends how he deals with his high main in the next few turns.
Ooh.
So, that's a juicy card.
Yeah. So he picks up the Earthen Ring Farseer here. He doesn't quite have enough mana to do everything that he'd want to do. But he's just going to be able to play both Earthen Rings and set up for the next turn here.
I would like if he doesn't attack with a Drake here because it'll force Buckbeard to try and deal with these Earthen Rings, because if he bounces an Earthen Ring back to his hand, it's a lot better for KDG than say a Drake at this point, because he can start putting on more healing and put more pressure on Buckbeard. And eventually at that point, the Rogue will start to outrace the Hunter with just giant Blade Flurry combos and giant Tinkers combos. So I like that he's gone for this double Farseer play. Like, so just to put that pressure on Buckbeard.
Yeah. And he actually does have Blade Flurry to deal with the hyenas that come out from the Savannah High main. So, yeah, I'd say he's in a pretty decent spot. The one thing, he actually even has double spell power as well. Yeah, see, this is such a weird turn because he really does not want those Earthen Ring Farseers to get freezing trapped. It's not quite as bad as, say, like an anti-heal bot, because 3 heal is it's not the worst thing in the world, but when you know that every point of damage counts when you're playing the mid-range hunter, you know that it is going to come down to a race when you, like you said, the rogue's going to get to those turns where he can make huge oil and Blade Flurry turns. then you need to be able to try and kill him as quickly as possible. He's really thinking. He decides to kill the Azure Drake.
I think he's accepted the fact that one of these Farseers is going back. Oh wait, no, he could have cleared both of them actually with the Hymen and the bow, but it looks like he doesn't really mind if a Farseer goes back to his hand here.
Yeah.
That's an interesting draw. Forasan in Rogue. Some people seem to like it. Some people seem to not. I personally don't like Forasan in Rogue. I don't feel it's necessary. You have enough utility with like preps and stuff like that to make your hand size smaller. So yeah. It's an interesting card. What do you think about it?
A lot of times on turn 6, you don't really have the luxury of just being able to play Thorsan. I feel like I think the weakest part for Rogue, or a lot of times the weakest part, is the early game, because you don't have like early creatures to play. You don't curve out early. The early game you're just removing. And so by the time you get to turn 6, usually you're like wanting to start building up like big blade for your turns. And like you said, they already have preps. Like they already have tools that make what they have in their hand cheaper. And a lot of times their spells are so cheap, a lot of times you don't need Thorsan to reduce. Like what if you have a handful of backstabs and preps? Thorsan does nothing unless like a Loatheb is played. So yeah, I do respect the fact that people like to put it in, but I don't think it's really necessary. I'd rather have that be like a Paladin Shredder or a Violet Teacher or the second Oil or something like that.
Yeah, the thing with the Rogue lists as well, they're quite tight with their slots as well. And like, what do you sacrifice for the Forest? And do you sacrifice Loatheb? I think the Loatheb's a bit too important. And we see a big game hunter here, which is I think is a good choice in the current meta at the moment. So again, that's another tech spot taken, and then we got Forreston as well. So what has he cut? And he has Sightseer as well. So what
double
has he cut
Sightseer. He might have cut anti-Keelbot, second Oil, second Fan, second Sap. There's quite a few things, but I think all those are important. I think second Fan was cut for BGH because there's like less Paladins, more handlocks. But I honestly have no idea. I agree with you that the list is super tight, and he also runs Southsea Deckhand, which is a card that a lot of people have been cutting as well. I know Oskaka really doesn't like Southsea Deckhand, and instead he puts in like a Violet Teacher in place of that. But yeah, I have no idea what he cuts for that.
So looking at Buckbeard here, he's got another Highmane down. He silenced the Forreston, so he doesn't want him reducing his hand size anymore with the costs. But so yeah, it's a bit awkward here for KDG. Depends what he... Does he push for damage here, or does he clear this Highmane and just summon the Hyenas? I mean, I guess this is a choice KDG needs to make from this point. Does he want to race him, or does he start going for more board clear?
He's got... The thing is, you don't know what those cards are in his hand. You haven't seen much direct damage. So you're a little scared, but you don't really have a choice. Misha,
Misha's not the best here. I don't know. If he had Leok or Huffer, he would have been able to throw out a lot of damage, but not enough for lethal, I don't think.
Well, if he had Leok, he would have been able to take out the Earthen Ring Farseer without having to either attack into it or kill it with his Highmane. Like, he could have unleashed the Hounds and attacked both of those in. But now he might have to like trade his Highmane into this Earthen Ring Farseer to just protect him from the damage. I don't know if he can even afford to do that. He might just have to go face and hope that he doesn't have anything to get through this Misha.
So the race is on.
Yeah, there's 15 damage on board. Just a sap and an eviscerate, he's dead next turn. And so in that case, I think Misha's better if he wasn't planning on trading, because it sort of blocks damage, which is what he wanted to do. Because at this point, I think blocking damage is better than doing 4 damage to the opponent. So...
This is the second time Buckbeard has roped on his Highmane attack, just considering decisions of where these Highmanes are going. I mean,
it's tough.
I remember it is. It's been a very hard match for him, really, because when you get these high mains where they're in a comfortable position to hit face, I mean, Amaz always jokes once high main hits face, it's usually GG's from there on, but it's been
Yeah.
tough for Buckbeard.
I think that might be it. He'll have a 7 damage Blade Flurry plus 11 on board. Oh no! Oh yeah, and they can re-dagger up. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
That
attack
is
with the new weapon, with the deadly.
yeah, that is lethal. So we'll have a 6 damage dagger. It'll be a 7 damage Blade Flurry plus 11 damage on board. That's 18. He re-daggers up and he kills him. So that should be lethal if I counted right and if he sees it. I think he's gonna count, but yeah,
Yep. He's working it out.
yeah. Yeah, okay. This has to be. I saw this nearly instantly. So, 11 damage on board. Deadly Poison would make a 6 damage dagger. And then with Spell Power, he Blade Flurries up to make it a 7 damage Blade Flurry. Alright, I think he sees it. No? I guess it doesn't matter. He can re-dagger up in Deadly Poison. Either way, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he just needs to find the 3 damage. Alright, well, KDG, wow, he's going to take... That looked a little rough at first, but he manages to find a way to win with exact lethal. And he's going to take 2-0 lead.
Yeah, it was really good play from him. He managed to make those high mains really awkward for Buckbeard. He had to make some really strange trades, some very tough decisions, and we were saying quite early on in the match that the sap would be very important in that matchup to for the Rogue to win. But in the end, KDG managed to pull that out without actually needing the sap, which was very well played for him.
Yeah, the big thing is if that sprint that he drew early on had come 1 or 2 turns later, that would have been a completely different game. He wouldn't have had to wait to deal with the Knife Juggler right off the bat. He would have taken an extra 6 damage over the course of the turns where he was drawing into sprints. So very timely sprint draw, and sort of fortunate for him that that he wasn't really punished for having to sap the Knife Juggler early on. And we did only see 1 sap there, so as far as we know, he only runs 1, but we didn't see probably about, maybe 12 cards in that deck. I think it was what it came down to after that sprint, so we'll have to see. But KDG is 1 game away, and we're going to move into it, and it looks like Mech Mage is the deck.
So Buckbeard here wants to get this Hunter win. He's hungry for it. He doesn't want this Hunter to go down without a fight. I mean, would you have changed deck at this point just to try and get a win with something else? Because his Hunter has been, it's been a bit awkward for him in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this discussion with a lot of players, do you switch decks if you're losing? I think you just keep with the same deck, because even though you've been losing with it, you're getting a feel for the deck. You're in the mindset of that deck, and especially if he thinks this is his weaker deck, then getting one with his first opens up easy opportunities. And you have to win with all 3 anyway, so you might as well just keep to the deck that you've been playing the whole time. But I know a lot of players feel superstitious or feel like the deck isn't on, so they want to give it a break for a second. I've heard some players say they want to reset their RNG, which is ridiculous, but it is what some people say.
And if I was to change deck in a Conquest format that was lost 2 in a row, I think it depends on the psychology of the player sometimes. Some players may be tilted too hard on that deck that they just need to play another deck just to kind of get a breath of fresh air almost, get a new feel for the match. And if they get that win then, it might give them the confidence to go on and take the set. But what's really strange about this current game is Mech Mage. This is a deck that's really fallen off as of recent. I mean, I'm a big fan of mech decks. I just love kind of the tempo and the aggro of them they can produce. But yeah, Tempo Mage has really taken Mech Mage's spot as a kind of go-to aggro deck for Mage right now, and it's quite interesting to see Mech Mage.
Yeah, I think it might have to do with the fact that he's playing on the EU servers from Korea. He might not have as many cards, and all the decks that he's played so far have been pretty cheap. Oil Rogue, Druid. I guess Druid not so much because there's a lot of epics in there, and Mech Mage. So it might just be the fact that he doesn't have as many cards. But in the Asian servers, there's the meta is just so completely different. So maybe Mech Mage is a little bit stronger over there than the Tempo Mage. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what I really like about the Asian servers. They have just a whole different approach to the meta than we do. And decks we find strong, they might find kind of like a different. They might think differently about them. Like the Tempo Mage, for example. There was Tiddler created a very different version of that before Flamewaker came out. Flamewalker, sorry, and had Pyroblast and Ice Blocks in there. It was completely different to the Tempo Mages that were seen in like NAEU.
Yeah.
But he decides to fireball this Misha. He wants to protect his Spider Tank. It's very important for Mech Mage to protect its minions because that's where most of its damage comes from. Fireballs and Frostbolts are generally finishers or just for board clears, just to keep that kind of board presence.
Yeah, it was funny in the North American qualifier that I casted a couple of days ago for the One Nation of Gamers. One of the players also was in the same spot where they didn't have many cards on NA because they were a player that was played primarily on the Asian servers, and so they put Spider Tanks in their Druid because they didn't have Dust for Shades. Because Shades are epic, and Spider Tanks are just a generic, common GBG card. So it was actually pretty funny to see Spider Tanks in Druid, in a non-mech Druid.
That was something one of my old teammates actually tested out for a while, over Shades. He was kind of like juggling between Spider Tanks, Shades, and Mind Control Techs when he was playing Ramp Druid, when Ramp Druid was coming back for a little while. Didn't stick around for too long. So I think it's fine. It's a bulky minion, and that's what Druids kind of want at that point. I mean, Shade is obviously a lot better, but he was willing to test it because GVG was quite new. But looking at the board here, KDG is looking quite far ahead. Again, Buckbeard doesn't really have a lot going on. He's going to be able to clear one of these minions here with his bow and maybe develop a Leponome. But again, he just seems just a bit far behind.
Yeah, the one thing though is that Mech Mages don't really have much like hand depth. Like they don't have many ways to refill their hand. A lot of Mech Mages don't run Arcane Intellect. The only way that they refill their hand is by getting like Azure Drakes, which some of them don't even run. Whoa, the Kazan Mystic!
That card, that has ruined lives. That card, that card, I think upsets people more sometimes. There's stuff like Doctor Boom. I mean, Kazan, especially against Hunter, I feel, especially hunters who run freezing traps, it can just completely change the game. It can actually lose. You can actually lose the game to a Kazan sometimes. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're this far behind on board, you manage to get a freezing trap down to kind of help fight for board again with minions and the combination of the trap. And then Kazan comes down, and then your minion can't do anything because the freezing trap is protecting them, and they've got a 4/3 sitting there, and it can ruin a hunter's day.
Especially if you make a play like play Savannah Highmane and then try and protect it with a freezing trap, then they Kazan steal your freezing trap, and all of a sudden you can't attack with Highmane. And Highmane getting a freezing trap is like the worst thing in the world. It's the same as Highmane getting sapped, but worse. And he is going to throw out the snake trap here, and I can imagine KDG is feeling pretty happy that he's going to have a secret to steal.
So he just goes for it here.
Wow.
The thing is, though,
brutal.
Snake Trap can play into the hunter's favor to an extent because of Unleash the Hounds, but of course we don't see one in Buckbeard. He probably wanted a freezing trap more. Mm-hmm. I definitely would at this point. Yeah. But you're going to take whatever you can get from a Kazan, really. It's a free 2-mana secret that your class doesn't have available to you. It's a fantastic card against Hunter.
Yeah. And, oh man, he doesn't even want to attack in because he knows that he's just going to give him 3 snakes. He's going to take 4 damage, give him 3 snakes. Okay, so he just goes ahead and decides to attack base. But that's pretty rough. And the card quality here for KDG is not the best, but Potted Shredder, that's 4 damage a turn. Now Buckbeard's out of cards. I think this one is pretty much in the bag for KDG.
So what went wrong for Buckbeard here is, as a hunter, which is one thing you never want to do, is play reactive. He had to play reactive straight from the get-go because the Mech Mage was able to develop such a strong board, and Buckbeard didn't have the opportunity to develop a board of his own. He was just relying on removal, and you never want to be like that as a hunter. And it's one of the weaknesses of the Priest class. It's a very reactive class, and I think sometimes when you play reactive, it just costs you the game.
Yeah. And I think that's game over. He can hope for Doomsayer once again from Pilot Shredder. But when you're in a best of 5 match, and twice in the best of 5 match, you have to attack into a Pilot Shredder out of desperation for a Doomsayer. That best of 5 didn't go too well. And whoa, that's crazy! Both times he was looking for a Doomsayer, he got a Scavenging Hyena. That's pretty unlikely.
Wow.
All right. Well played comes out, and wow, a quick series to start off the day. KDG takes a 3-0 victory over Buckbeard, and that's a tough way to go out after your Buckbeard. He played through the whole qualifier yesterday, and goes out 3-0 once he finally makes it to the top 4.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's Hunter let him down. Like, well, that whole series is Hunter let him down. I would have liked to have seen him change decks, just to try and give an opportunity to get some momentum going. I mean, the Hunter just didn't work at all, and the icing on the cake there was a Kaz and Mystic in the Mech Mage. It just all went against Buckbeard in that game. But fair play to KDG. He made some really good plays and some really good decisions. That rogue game was fantastic, I think, from both players' parts. But I had to make some really tough calls.
Yeah. So KDG is going to move on to the finals. He's going to take on the winner of our next match, which is going to be Tom 60229 and Mirari from My Insanity. And Buckbeard, of course, he's not out yet. He'll play one more match. He'll play for 3rd place. And there is some, of course, Geico points on the line. There's World Championship points on the line as well. So 3rd and 4th place, they have a difference of 2 Geico points. And for taking 3rd, you get $50. Whereas for taking 4th, you don't get any money whatsoever. So next matchup, of course, is going to be Tom 60229 versus Mirari. We do want to give you guys one quick reminder to head over to geico.onog.gg. You'll find all the information for the tournament, as well as all the information about Geico points, the feature tournaments, and leading up to that grand final at PAX. You can also get a Geico quote, and you can enter to win that official TSM PC. So we are going to go to a quick break. You can head over to that website during the break to get some of that information. But once again, guys, don't go anywhere. More One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit right after this break. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit. This is the EU qualifier number 2, and we are one match in so far. Once again, I'm TJ. I'm joined by Aquablad, and we just saw a pretty quick series between KDG and Buckbeard. What did you think of that one, Aquablad?
Very strong series from KDG. We played excellent. I was a big fan of that Rogue versus Hunter game. There's some a lot of big decisions had to be made on both sides with high mains not going face. Unfortunate for Buckbeard there. But yeah, a very strong showing from KDG. Buckbeard fell a bit short with his Hunter. I think it let him down there. But he's going to be playing again, right? So
Yeah, he'll be playing in the third place match after this next one. Yeah.
So hopefully he'll be able to show us what some of the other decks he's brought, and hopefully that Hunter won't let him down this time.
Yeah. All right. Well, next matchup is going to be Mirari from My Insanity versus Tom60229 from the Woi Flash Wolves. And Tom, of course, Taiwanese player, very popular over in the Asian scene. He's got practice partners with a lot of the biggest players over there, like Wei Fu, Pimping Ho, Roger, names that you may hear from international tournaments because they do make it to quite a few. Tom plays in a crap ton of qualifiers, of online qualifiers. And this is just another one of those that he made it to the top 4 in. So it's another one that he could chalk on his resume. And both these guys have pretty similar deck lineups. They both have Warrior and Warlock. There's just a difference with Tom bringing Druid and Mirari bringing Hunter.
Yeah, well, the Warlock Warrior Hunter is what they call the Unholy Trinity at the moment, because the top 5 decks, apart from Rogue being kind of within 4th, 5th spot, it's generally Handlock Zoo, Patron Warrior, Mid/Hybrid Hunter, and Oil Rogue. Druid's not too far behind them, but there's a lot of opinions around that I've heard that people don't like Druid in Conquest, whereas so far we've seen the Asian players taking a liking to Druid and bringing Druid to this tournament.
Yeah. And, Druid was once upon a time touted as being the class that was like consistent. They'd be able to consistently win at least like one match. You'd win the match that you wanted to in like last hero standing format. But nowadays decks are becoming a little bit faster. There's a lot more things that can punish Druids early on, even if they do get wild growth and innervate starts. So the Asian players are the ones that are holding on to it. But we'll have to see how that's going to match up versus the Hunter. Mirari. It sort of seems like there's been a couple different types. There's been the players that are bringing lineups with Patron Warrior and the players that are bringing lineups to counter Patron Warrior, which is kind of a funny dynamic. And the first matchup is going to be the Druid from Tom and the Patron Warrior from Mirari.
So traditionally, Druid has always been known as a class that beats Warrior, but that was back in the days when Control Warrior was pretty much the only viable deck in the competitive scene. I mean, we had like Aggro Warrior from Reynad, and that was a long time ago. But Control Warrior has kind of always stuck around. But now things are a bit different. Swipe can be a very awkward card for Druid because if it can't clear patrons, it can't. And patrons are really hard for Druid to deal with, especially if you make even 2 or 3 of them. They need Wraths. They need solid answers to get rid of them.
Yeah. And they have to deal with them like one by one, the patrons. So if they don't have like multiple ways of removal in their hand, when patrons come down, they pretty much just lose. Like they have to like Wrath 1, Keeper 1, and then Wrath another, or Wrath 1, Keeper 1, Swipe 1, and so it becomes really problematic.
Yeah, it creates kind of like an optimized play for the Druid. But one thing I would like to point out here is Harrison Jones. Now, I think weapon removal against Patron Warrior is especially important, and especially if you can get rid of a Death Spite.
Yeah.
Because the Whirlwind effect is such a big part of the game plan for Patron spawning so many tokens, and Harrison Jones, like right now, Harrison Jones coming up, he's actually going to mess up part of the plan. I mean, it doesn't completely cripple Patron Warrior, but it definitely slows things down.
Yeah, my thanks. Oh man, yeah. This is, since it was on curve, this is okay. A lot of times you want to save it too, like you said, it takes away the combo. It's like taking away a combo piece from a combo deck. I don't want to. It doesn't quite go as far as this, but it could sort of be like taking a force of nature out of the hand of your opponent, or something similar, because it just removes so much potential for damage from your hand. And he does have the second Despite, and now he's gonna try and be, or the Tom is gonna be a little bit sad that the second Despite was there and the Harrison wasn't as effective, because this is going to be sort of the combo Despite now that's coming out.
Yeah, that's true, but I guess the one thing Tom might be happy with is... Oh, okay. See, I like that. I was thinking Druid the Claw is a decent play because it's got 6 health and he'll be able to tank some of this Death Spite, but what's clever here is he's played the Sylvanas, so he can't start any patron combos right now. He needs to clear the Sylvanas first, and he basically does what Harrison just did. He wasted the Whirlwind effect of the Death Spite.
Yeah. And also, Mirari's at 12 health.
Yeah, that's true. And we got a Savage Roar and 2 Druid of the Claw. So Tom has the option here to play more aggressively. He could probably go for the win soon.
Yeah, he sort of has to play aggressively. He's on a clock now. He doesn't have a... Oh, actually, he does have a way to deal with these patrons. He can deal with 3 of them. But I don't even know if he wants to go for that. He might just want to try and play super aggressively. He doesn't have second piece of his combo. But the Druid of the Claw Savage Roar is 8 damage for 8 mana. Yeah, 8 damage for 8 mana.
So we could go for the option here of making 1 Druid of the Claw in charge this turn. Raffin the 5/1, so he gets a card draw as well. Might get an Innovate or something like that. And then he can attack face, which will take him down to 8. The next turn, he has the option of maybe setting up lethal with the Savage Roar and the other Druid of the Claw. But it looks like he's actually going to go for the partial clear here.
Yeah, the safer play. He's seen a lot of Whirlwind effects. He's seen Inner Rage, 1 straight-up Whirlwind, and both Death Spites. So he knows there's actually not too many ways left in the deck to combo with patrons. So he's thinking, well, once I remove this, wow, this hand is actually pretty good. I was going to say pretty ridiculous, but I don't know if it's necessarily ridiculous. He's actually just going to get Battle Rage on 2 cards. I think he's looking for other combo pieces. But he does have Cruel Taskmaster. He's got Warsong Commander. And
it looks like he's going to build some more health here.
Yeah, and...
I mean, another option he could have went for, he could have played the Warsong Commander, then Cruel Taskmaster, then Battle Rage for an extra card, and then have that more aggressive stance. But probably because he's so low right now, he wants to start building a bit of health up. So because he's still got board here, and Druid's still going to have a tough time trying to deal with this board.
Yeah. Whoa. So this, it actually might be starting to get a little bit out of reach for Tom here. Because now he's going to be playing 1 big creature a turn, and Mirari has initiative. And when you have initiative with patrons on the board, it could feel like every single turn he's killing your stuff and making more of his own stuff, which is just it can get a little bit out of, or really out of hand very quickly. And he might just have to like Ancient of Lore here, but he's staring at 11 damage on the board. There's potential for quite a bit more from the hand. It's a rough position.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, he does have the option of Druid of the Claw here in Taunt and maybe Hero Power in a 5/1, but you're taking 4 damage to the face. And you, like I said, you don't know what this patron has locked in his hand ready. He could have more effects for generating more patrons, like an Execute, which we do see in his hand is very problematic for Tom if he decides to go for that Claw play. But Ancient of Lore, again, it's another... He just plays Ancient of Lore, or he draws, or heals, it doesn't matter. A 5/1's just going to run straight into it unless he gets an Innovate, so...
Yeah. He's going to have to charge in here to just clear the patrons. He can't really afford to allow the engine to just sit there on the board for Mirari, so is forced to clear it off. But he gets another one. Oh, man.
It's fine. I've got my patron.
Yeah. Of course, he doesn't have a way to sort of activate it to spawn more, but he is going to be able to start keep piling on the damage here. And with Frothy Berserker in hand as well, he has a chance to make some big plays.
So he's managed to gain quite a bit of health actually since that turn where it was looking in Tom's favor. So he's managed to go back up to 18 health, which is starting to put him a bit more out of range of, say, the combo and such. And here we go, swipe. Not as awkward as it could be because there are no patrons on the board, so he might consider an innovate swipe somewhere here. But I think he just needs to get rid of that Warsong Commander right now, because it's just it's just going to prove a lot of trouble if, say, that Frothing Berserker does get dropped and he starts to gain some attack from creature damage or whirlwind effects.
I think he wants to hold on to the innervate. I think he realizes that his only way to win is going to be to draw Force of Nature next turn and double combo. Because double combo would most likely kill him, because it'd be 22 damage, and Mirari would have to gain more than 5 armor this turn, which doesn't seem too likely. But the Whirlwind, oh man, that's exactly the card that he wanted. Like, all the cards in his hand scream like Whirlwind, and I think that's lethal. That'll be an extra 6 damage from the Frothing, so 8 plus... Oh yeah, that's lethal by far. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I believe he had 19 damage.
Wow, so Tom, looking like he was ahead for a while, all of a sudden Patron does its thing, and then it's gained health, it's gained board, and then it's gained like this explosive burst damage in one turn. This is what makes his deck so powerful. It's just it just swings from like one end to the other just so easily sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and most people will say, and you said it a little bit earlier, is Patron's favored in that matchup. I mean, Patron has most of their matchups are favorable, or most of their matchups is like 50% at the worst. Maybe with the exception of Handlock, which is people are teching in BGH, so it's actually getting a lot better now. And so getting the Patron out of the way, he pretty much knew he was going to get a win at some point with that. And now Tom does not have to worry about it. So they're actually both going to switch decks. So we're going to see a Warlock Mirror matchup here. So Mirari has the Zoo Warlock, and Tom looks to be traditional Handlock.
And we see a Leper Gnome here, so Mirari's opted for some more damage in turn 1 minions. I mean, usually with the Zoo, you just kind of see Flame Imps, Void Walkers, and Abusive Sergeants. But he's managed to squeeze in Leper Gnomes. And we were talking about how the Rogue list is quite tight these days. I find the Zoo list is starting to go down that path as well, because Zoo is starting to fill up with bigger drops these days, like you see Sylvanas in Druid these days, and a Zoo. You see Dr. Boom in Zoo. You see the Mal'Ganis. Like, all these spots are these tech spots are being filled up with bigger drops. So I'm curious to see what he's cut for these Leper Gnomes.
Yeah, there are players that tend to go more towards the traditional Zoo, but you're right. There's also a lot of drops, like in the mid range, that are like must-haves, like Imp Gang Boss and Implosion. Those are things that didn't exist a few months ago that now are auto-includes in every single Zoo deck. So it makes the list even tighter as it goes on. So maybe he cut, like... I'm trying to think of what are the 1-drops, but the only 1-drops they usually run are like 1 Flame Imp, Void Walkers, and Abusive Sergeants. And it feels like those are all really important for the early game. So maybe he does run Dark Iron Dwarf, so this seems more like a classic Zoo. He might top out at Doomguards, or maybe like a Sea Giant.
Maybe these Leper Gnomes are just to push extra damage, so maybe he's playing just a faster classic wall Zoo here. But speaking of the NVIDIA finals the other day, a Zoo player there was running Wolf Riders and Leroy, so he went a completely different way. So Zoo is in an interesting spot now where it can take a few different paths on what its game plan is going to be, and it looks like Mirari's opted here to go for that more aggressive stance. Yeah,
Zoo is just sort of innately strong. It's like an aggro deck, or I guess a lot of them are now going more towards like board control decks or tempo decks with an innate card draw mechanic with the hero power. So it's always going to be strong no matter how you build it, I feel.
But speaking of Tom here, like, Handlock is a good deck against Zoo, I find.
If you have Moltons.
If you have Moltons, yeah, but the anti-heal bots can be very swingy for handlock players if they're playing against aggro, and we do see that Tom has a lot of good options here. He's got an anti-heal bot, he's got a Belcher, he's got a Siphon Soul, he's got a Shadow Flame, so he's got a lot of ways to deal and hold back this Zoo deck.
Yeah. He does want to draw into those Moltons pretty quickly because you can stabilize all you want, but you're still only going to be playing like one thing per turn for a while. And if you get to the point where your opponent can just burst you down through whatever taunts you have, if all you're doing is playing a Sludge Belcher next turn, it's going to be pretty rough.
We do see a Dark Bomb in Mirari's hand, so again, even more going for the game plan of a more aggressive Zoo there. Dark Bomb being able to go face as well if he needs it to. So that's going to be, I think that's going to catch Tom by surprise, seeing a Dark Bomb in Zoo, because it's generally not run that much anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, so Lilfek comes down.
Surprised he hasn't played the egg yet. I guess he's wanted to contest the board, but usually that's your protection against AoE, but he hasn't really needed protection against AoE so far. Right,
the thing with Mirari here, he's not even bothered about Molten Giants. He hit him down to 8 health. He was willing to bank that Tom won't be able to go Molten Argus or something like that, which could cause all sorts of problems for Mirari. So he's basically, his game plan here is just to kill him as fast as possible, and he's sticking with it regardless of what Tom has.
Yeah, I feel like most of the time you can't afford to play around Moltons when you're playing Zoo. Like, by the time playing around Moltons gives your opponent time to draw into Moltons if they didn't have them. I think you just have to sort of take the risk. Just go for it. If they have Moltons, oh well, like you tried. But in unfavorable matchups like this, you have to sort of take risks when necessary. And I think that's a risk that you need to take.
So yeah, he's just going face again, hits him back down to 8 health, not afraid of Moltons. Like you said, taking these risks, just trying to close out this game as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Tom has some good answers in his hand, but they're all quite slow. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I was just thinking, he needs to pop the egg or the spider, really. I think he needs to pop both of them and be able to get a good Shadow Flame off, but how do you do that?
Good bombs.
Oh, it seems he's not interested in Shadow Flame just... Oh, yes, he is. Okay.
Alright, yeah, this is sort of the middle ground between the two. He's going to set it up so where he leaves him with very little power on the board, still preserves his taunt. And so next turn he's going to have effective ways to deal with it. But yeah, at this point, there's no way he's going to play around Moltons because he was at 8 health and he didn't play anything. All he played was the heal bot. So he knows that if he does draw into Moltons, he's going to be top decking it. So, but Tom is on the verge of stabilization here. Mirari's running out of cards. Tom has a lot of tools to be able to keep himself in the game with some heals, with Earthring Farseer, with some Sludge Belchers to create walls. Oh, wow! Tom just smiles and rolls his eyes.
That was clutch. That could have caused some problems to Mirari right there. He might have not had enough damage to do as much trading as he had liked, but fortunately for him, that Direwolf Alpha didn't go down. He's fighting strong. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, and now he doesn't have enough.
Is he?
Wow.
Oh.
That is pretty brutal. Oh man, he was banking on the fact that he'd have enough damage to kill the Dr. Boom with the Direwolf Alpha in between the egg, and he actually did. But when the Direwolf Alpha was killed, all of a sudden he didn't have it. I guess it doesn't matter too much, because the Void Walker trades in with the Dr. Boom, and at this point I don't know if you can afford to use a heal on Dr. Boom. I mean, I guess so. You could heal Dr. Boom, trade in, and then Sludge Belcher, but
you've seen a Dark Bomb at this point, though, so you've got to be a little bit worried about what direct damage Mirari can do.
That's true. He's out of cards, though, so he's going to be drawing 2 cards a turn. If you can... yeah, but leaving the Knife Juggler up seems... not the
I mean,
best.
Implosion could ruin his day. He could tap into Implosion. Maybe another Knife Juggler. There's a lot of things he can still draw into which are quite deadly. But I do agree. Yeah, I do like this play actually because it just keeps that Nat Taunt alive again for another turn, and he has to invest some more resources on the board.
Whoa! Into Soulfire? Oh, that would have been pretty rough if he had Dark Bombed into Soulfire for the win. I'm not sure if he runs Soulfire. There have been some lists that are super aggro that run like a lot of charged creatures, like you said, Wolf Rider and Leroy, that do throw in a copy of Soulfire for a little bit of extra burn.
Imagine if that was a Doomguard. That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
He would have had 7 mana as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, Tom is fighting here.
Mortal Coil allows him to draw deeper into his deck and clear off one of these drops, but if he does that, he's basically resigning himself to just playing Sludge Belcher. But I guess it's not too bad.
He's seen 2 Dark Bombs now, so unless he, like you said, unless he runs Soulfire, he doesn't need to fear any kind of direct damage to the face. And once he clears his Juggler, the Implosion becomes a little less deadly because it doesn't throw knives at your face.
Yeah. I actually kind of like, I don't know, Mortal Coil and try and play Emperor here. Like Mortal Coil and then play...
I was actually thinking about this play. This was going through my mind. After seeing the 2 Dark Bombs here, sitting on 1 health. Sitting on 1 health doesn't seem that bad. What direct damage? Oh, unless he gets another Knife Juggler.
It's a 50-50. Oh no.
Oh man.
He sniped him. Wow, that's heartbreaking for Tom because you're right. You're expecting, okay, well, he's used both Dark Bombs. What direct damage could he possibly have that would kill me? Well, a rolling Knife Juggler into Flame Whip and then sniping the face is 1 damage. And Mirari even used the thank you emote. That is just, whew. Oh, wow, he takes a 2-0 lead in the series.
I do like that Tom made that play. I think that was a winning play because if he had stabilized from there on, I don't think Mirari would be able to come back. He had Siphon Soul. He could have drawn into Jaraxxus. He had a lot of options in his hand and coming up. So I do like that play, but it's unfortunate that Mirari, for Tom, that he did get that Knife Juggler and he did get that 50-50. So a good amount of luck on Mirari's side there, but hopefully Tom's not too hinged from this. He's got this Patron Warrior coming out, and we've already seen what it's capable of in the first game.
Tom has switched decks all 3 times, or all the games. He started off with his Druid, and then he lost and went to Warlock, and now he lost again and went to Warrior. That's an interesting choice. It's something that you don't see players do often.
Maybe Tom feels a bit frustrated with some of the situations and the ways he's lost these last 2 games, because he's lost. I mean, apart from the last game, like the first game, we thought he was quite far ahead. He had Harrison, he had a good setup with his Druid, and all of a sudden this Patron Warrior just swung out of control. And then in that Zoo game, he lost to RNG. So maybe he's just frustrated with his decks, I think, and he just wants to try and get a win with the other one.
Yeah. And Patron Warrior, I think, does have the best matchup against Hunter as far as his decks go. And this looks like, the Unstable Ghoul. That is... wow.
That is sweet. That is really sweet for Tom.
That's a pretty cool tech. It's not a tech that you see put in a lot of the times. Against... as a Patron Warrior. If you're expecting super fast, then yeah. It's not the... Actually, yeah, it's pretty bad.
The thing is with Patron, there's a lot of directions you can take the deck. Some people take the faster route with the double inner rages and try and go for that clean kill as fast as possible. Whereas some opt to play more for control and pick up all the combo pieces and then kind of finish them off. So they play stuff like Dr. Boom. They play like 2 Dread Courses and sometimes even Gnomish Inventors. So I think, like you said, the Unstable Ghoul is really good against stuff like Hunter. But maybe a faster version of Patron wouldn't run that. They'd opt to run something else, like an extra inner rage or something.
Yeah. So this is a situation that I want to talk about a little bit. A lot of people will say that just playing a knife juggler like that, especially when you have Unleash the Hounds, is not the right play. Especially since you want to weave in your hero power. But Knife Juggler can actually be a liability in this matchup. Knife Juggler Unleash is a play that you'll rarely make when you're playing against Patron Warrior. Because those juggles can sometimes do more harm than good. Especially with Armor Smiths on the board, Acolytes on the board, Patrons on the board, even Frothing Berserkers on the board. So I like using Knife Juggler as sort of a way to deal 3 damage. Like throwing it on the board, knowing that it's going to get eaten by a weapon, is probably the best use that you're going to find for a Knife Juggler in the Hunter versus Patron Warrior matchup. So even though he has Unleashed, even though he wants to weave in hero powers as much as possible, throwing out the Knife Juggler early to like do the 3 damage while you can is probably the best use that you're going to get from it.
Yeah, I totally agree there. The Unleash the Hounds Knife Juggler combo has really poor interaction with a Patron deck. So, like you said, you don't want to give them anything extra. And the problem with that combo is it does interact poorly for the Hunter with their cards. Drawing cards, gaining armor, gaining attack, gaining patrons is just counterproductive for the Hunter. So yeah, I totally agree with the Knife Juggler. Just getting it thrown away there early, maybe soak up a weapon, maybe soak up a minion.
Yeah.
So Tom,
Well, that executes blocking our view of the health.
So Tom has an unknown amount of health. So there's 2 traps down. He's seen, if he was watching the previous set, he would have seen Snake. So he doesn't know what to expect yet because he hasn't seen this druid. I guess he's so an explosive trap will actually take out both the. Oh, he's got 8 health. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. At first, the Fire War Axe was blocking the view of health. I was like, I think he's getting pretty low. I don't know for sure, but he's taking a lot of damage from weapon swings. And he hasn't really been armoring up every turn. Because if you notice his last couple turns, last turn he played double Acolyte of Pain and then attacked into something. And using that Knife Juggler as a way to deal damage was actually really good. He also has Explosive Trap up and Freezing Trap up. And Eaglehorn Bow. And he has Unleash. I don't know really if there's a way that Tom can win this. He's just taking too much damage so far. He's going to need to like piece together a win. And I actually think that yeah, he can attack. 2 damage wins the game here. Because he's got 6, 7, 8. Yeah, any 2 damage wins the game. Oh wow, that's probably the worst draw he could have gotten.
Yeah, he's probably hoping for a charge minion. Maybe even a animal companion would have been helpful there, as long as he doesn't get Misha.
Yeah.
He needs an Armor Smith. That's what he needs.
I actually would have liked to use Unleash there. Actually, I don't know. Because I don't know if you're ever going to get more than 3. Because if these attack in, they're going to hit the Explosive Trap and they're all going to die.
But I don't think Tom's got a way to come back here. Without an Armor Smith, what can he do?
He has to win, like, this turn. And he doesn't have a Whirlwind effect. No Whirlwind effects. That's crazy to think that he's been through so much of his deck and doesn't even have a single Whirlwind effect. He's got all the other pieces. Like, Warsong Commander with a bunch of creatures on board and a Frothing Berserker going into an Explosive Trap is like what you want, because everything takes damage.
I think this play. Oh, I don't know about this. Unless he, like you said, unless he can win. I would have liked to see maybe an Inventor the fish for an Armor Smith, but he obviously doesn't know what Mirari has available to him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That's another quick series. Mirari's going to take this one 3-0, and going into a pretty rough matchup. Patron Warrior usually has the advantage against Face Hunter, and he even had a good opening hand. He had Armor Smith into the Unstable Ghoul, so he was able to control the board early. He just took way too much damage, and he didn't draw into enough life gain to be able to survive long enough to piece together a lethal. And our second 3-0 of the day.
I think Mirari's probably happy with this win. I mean, Tom is such a strong player of his scene, but also a strong international presence as well. And Mirari, you know, he just 3-0'd like one of the best players in Asia, quite convincingly as well. So yeah, I think Mirari is probably really happy with this victory so far. And he moves on to the grand finals, which you'll play another Asian player, KGG. So It's going to be Europe versus Asia in the finals.
Yeah. Yeah, Mariah will move on to face KDG, like you said. Tom will move down to face um, Deck Buckbeard. I was about to say Deckbeard. I was like, that doesn't sound right. He's going to move down to face Buckbeard in the third place match. So the third place match is going to be the next match that we broadcast. Like I said, Tom versus Buckbeard. There is money on the line, and there is Geico points on the line. So third place does get 7 Geico points, 1 Hearthstone World Championship point, and $50. Whereas fourth place gets only 5 Geico points, 1 Hearthstone World Championship point as well, and no money. So it's a difference of $50 and a difference of 2 Geico points. So like we said earlier, those Geico points are actually super important. It allows you to qualify for a future tournament or qualify for the grand finals at PAX without even having to win one of these. So the more consistently you place in these tournaments, if you make it into a couple of these qualifier finals and you don't win, but you start racking up those Geico points, they can really start adding up and allow you to make it to these big tournaments without having to win one of these qualifiers.
And there are plenty of qualifiers to play, and there's 16 open qualifiers altogether. So there's a lot of chances for you to accumulate these Geico points and secure that spot in the LAN at the end of the open tournament series. So you know, get involved in these tournaments. Sign up on the webpage for the next one, and keep playing. You know, you never know, if you start placing relatively high a few times, you might have the most Geico points at the end of the tournament series, and you'll be able to go to the finals.
Yeah, you can sign up at Liquid Hearth. The next qualifier, I do believe, is on Tuesday. That's the North American qualifier. You don't have to be from North America to participate. You just have to have you have to be participating on the North American server. So you have to have cards on the North American server. So yeah, next Tuesday is the qualifier one, and then we'll have the feature tournament next weekend, and then start up the following week with the next EU qualifier. So make sure you head over there. Also, you can head over to geico.onog.gg. On that website, you can get all the information about the upcoming tournaments, the upcoming qualifiers. You can get a Geico quote. Of course, none of this would be possible without Geico. And you can enter to win an official TSM PC. The specs are ridiculous. It's one of the best computers I've seen. And it's an official TSM PC. So if you're a TSM fan, you can head over there as well. But the next matchup is going to be the third place match between Tom60229 and Buckbeard. So once again, guys, do not go anywhere. More One Nation to Gamers Summer Circuit action right after this break. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit. This is the EU qualifier number 2, the qualifier finals. Once again, I'm Awesome Okidi or TJ, and I'm joined by Aquablad. 2 3-0s today, man. It's been quick so far.
Yeah, both of the players who have won have shown us really convincing play. I mean, Mirari just, wow, he showed some incredible play. His Zoo play was exceptionally good as well because he had a game plan with his deck and he stuck to it and he came out on top. And KDG, again, showing some excellent play, especially with his Rogue. But now we have the 2 losers. One will go home with no cash and one will take away $50.
Yeah, and it's going to be Buckbeard taking on Tom60229. And both these players had different approaches to their matches that they lost. Buckbeard stuck with the mid-range hunter throughout the whole time and lost all 3 matches with it. So we only know one of his decks. Whereas Tom60229, he actually played all 3 of his decks. He lost once with each one, so he decided to switch every time he lost. So we do know what's in all of his decks. So a little bit different approach from these players. And I'm curious to see who's going to come out of this one, because I don't know what kind of mage that is. I don't know what kind of ward this is. I'd imagine it's Patron Warrior. I'd imagine it's Tempo Mage, because that seems to be more popular than Freeze. But we have seen Mech today. I don't know. It's been sort of a crazy 2 matches so far.
I think the one thing, Buckbeard does have a slight advantage over Tom if the both players have been watching the other matches, because Buckbeard has more information on Tom, so he has the opportunity here to kind of prepare himself. He knows there's a Harrison in the Druid. He's seen a few things from the handlock as well. It looked pretty standard, the handlock. There wasn't too much out of the ordinary there, and same with the Patron Warrior. But he does know that Harrison's there, so that might make him a bit more cautious when he comes, if he has to play the Patron or whatever warrior he's playing versus Druid. Whereas Tom only knows about the Mid Hunter, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary with that. It was more classic Mid Hunter from what I could see than Mirari's approach, which was more aggressive. I think it was. I don't know. He was running explosive and freezing, so maybe he was more classic mid as well. But yeah, we'll have to see what this mage and warrior. It could be control warrior, it could be freeze mage. We don't know yet.
Yeah. One thing that he can learn is Buckbeard was playing snake traps, which is something that, if you know about, is a pretty big advantage. Because you can go through that process of elimination a little bit smoother without having to worry about it. He can say, okay, well, he's got freezing and snake, so I don't really have to worry about explosive. I can check how I want to check. But it looks like it is going to be... I don't know. I don't know what kind of mage that is. Okay, it's Tempo Mage. I saw the Flame Strike and I was thinking, that's interesting. Like, a lot of times Tempo Mages don't run Flame Strike, especially the faster ones with Flame Wakers. But Buckbeard does run Flame Strikes with this mage.
Yeah, well, his opening hand was like Forest-on, Flame Strike, Scientist. That was pretty much a freeze mage opening hand as far as we knew.
But then he had a Mirror Entity as well, and I was like, oh, wait, what?
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. Just mixing up those secrets, maybe, to throw his opponent off guard. But we see this unstable Ghoul again, and it's going to be able to take out this Mad Scientist here, if it wants to. But we'll have to see what Buckbeard how he decides to respond. I think playing the Sorcerer's Apprentice here is a bit clunky. I mean, he can't deal with the Unstable Ghoul without pinging it, so that might just be his line of play here, just to get rid of that before it starts doing any more damage.
Yeah, the Flame Cannon is pretty important because it allows you to take out like Frothing Berserker play right on turn 3 or a Gnomish Inventor. It's more important than just being thrown away on an Unstable Ghoul that you can trade into anyway. And sometimes you are happy to just trade in the Mad Scientist because it allows you to get value out of the secret before you draw the secret. So it reduces the chance that you draw into Mirror Entity the next turn, which means you're more likely to get a better draw. Even though it's earlier in the game, and the likelihood that you draw Mirror Entity is not that high anyway, it still sometimes can feel good to get the Mad Scientist secret out of the way.
So he opts the Flame Cannon, the 2/2 here, which, I don't know, it's not going to play into his favor here. So he's got a 2/4 to deal with, and he could have saved that if he just went for the trade. But I think what he was thinking was playing around Fiery Warak so he could just keep some of his board. But looking here, he's just going to go face. this Northshire Cleric's going to be able to maybe get a 2-for-1, but it's going to be quite a slow 2-for-1.
Yeah, so this is a slower tempo mage. It runs Sludge Belchers, Flame Strikes. This is probably the version that runs Rag as well, I'm guessing. And it runs Piloted Shredders in that 4 slot instead of Mechanical Yetis. Mechanical Yetis are usually run because of the spare part synergy with both Archmage Antonidas and with Flame Wakers. But Piloted Shredders are stickier and usually harder to deal with in the fullest, so usually run in the slower versions of it.
Unfortunately for Buckbeard, though, it being stickier didn't really pay off because he got an Ancient Watch out of it, which is a dead card, really, unless he runs any silence. And if he did have the Mechanical Yetis, he might have had a Taunt Activator. So
yeah, a Rusty Horn.
So yeah, that's a bit unfortunate for Buckbeard, getting a bit more of that bad luck, which he's been kind of cursed with this tournament. But
yeah,
we'll have to see how he decides to deal with the board here.
At least he gets a chance to play another deck. Last time he opened with the Hunter, and this time, who knows? He might lose 3 games with the Tempo Mage. No, just joking. I think he has a good shot, but right now it doesn't look like he's in that great of a position. He sort of lost the tempo. He's having to sort of inefficiently trade in with these creatures that are on the board. And so Frostbolting the Face, this is a play that I really like when you're playing Tempo Mage or you're playing like Mech Mage against Patron Warrior, is just trying to make their turns difficult. You know that he's probably setting up for a power play on anything after turn 5. So you Frostbolt the Face when he's got that second Deathbite charge. Probably means that he's not going to do anything on that turn. He's just going to hold back.
Yeah, he was. I think Tom had a good response to all of this. So he had an execute. Like I said, I did like that play as well. Locking out that Deathbite for a turn just so he doesn't get a good. Just spawn a couple of patrons, but he was able to set up his War Song here.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Well,
is he? He has a Flame Strike.
Oh yeah, that's okay. So if he didn't have Flame Strike, I would not have played Sludge Belcher. I would have pinged past before I played Sludge Belcher. Because with Death's Bite, it's basically you're giving him a free patron. Especially he just played Warsong Commander. You know that he's setting up for something next turn.
He's going to get a lot of patrons here, but ultimately it's not really going to matter. Well, the damage to the face, it's going to hurt him, but he's going to be able to get a clean sweep here. And with a Dr. Boom to follow up straight after, Tom doesn't really have a lot going after this.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be able to put, what is this, 14 damage on the face? Going to put him at 16, I think.
I'm sure Buckbeard's grinning right now, sitting with that Flame Strike in hand. He did take half his health, though. That's what it cost him.
Yeah, I forgot about the 2 damage from the Warsong Commander. 14 health.
Ooh. That's something Patron never wants to see. All that work, all that effort, gone.
All that skill. Well, he does set up for lethal next turn regardless. So, yeah, I think that's game. Yeah, he doesn't have a way to kill this. Even if he whirlwinds, and the Boombots both have to hit for 4 on the Grom. Because I'm sure he's going to play Dr. Boom this turn. I think that's his only play.
Yeah, he has to. He has to rely on those Boombots doing some work. And like you said, it's too... Yeah, how do you... Yeah, this is a big gamble. I mean, but it's his only option.
This is so unlikely. All he has to do is... The only way he wins is if he whirlwinds in both... Okay, he's going to try and do it this way. Alright. Yeah, there we go. That's the less riskier play. Because there's a 50-50 that he just wins the game and a 50-50 that just nothing happens. So he had the Whirlwind as backup. And he knew that if the first Boombot hit phase, he could Whirlwind knowing that the second Boombot wouldn't do anything. So killing both separately was actually the way to go. That's actually really smart. Really smart play by Tom to do it that way, to sequence it that way. And it was a very small chance that he lost regardless. But really good sequencing.
So the Sludge Belcher play there from Buckbeard potentially was what cost him the game there. The Sludge Belcher play allowed Tom to deal half of his health or just over half of his health, and set up for that Grom kill. So let's just say if he had fireballed the Warstorm Commander instead, he might have had more of a chance to actually win that game. He was at 30 health, there was no combo coming, and he had a Dr. Boom coming up. So you could call that a misplay, I guess, but I guess he had to. I think he should have figured out how much it would cost to flame strike that board. Did he calculate that it cost him half his health?
Yeah,
maybe not.
It's rough because he could have set up a big board of patrons the next turn without charging them, and he would have been able to deal with the flame strike. So I'm sure he'll be thinking about that play. I'm sure if he loses a series, it'll be haunting him a little bit. But he's going to Cupid in the next match. It is going to be Midrange Hunter versus Tom's Handlock.
So Midrange Hunter generally has a better time versus Handlock than its other variations. But this match very much depends on how much tempo the Hunter gets at the start. Because if the Handlock can kind of deal with the Hunter from the beginning, I think it gets just harder and harder for the Hunter as things go on. Because it starts to sustain with Belchers and all sorts of stuff, and they have to start throwing Hunter's Marks around and silences. And then when the Giants come down the big Taunt Giants come down, it can be very hard for the Hunter to deal with. But on the other hand, the Hunter gets good enough pressure from the start. The Handlock becomes very vulnerable to like kill commands and quick shots and stuff like that. So it could go either way, this matchup. I think it's about 50-50, maybe 60-40 in the Handlock's favor, depending on what tech cards he has.
Yeah. The Midrange Hunter, Face Hunter like deals consistent damage every single turn. So you know that you're going to hit your Moltens, and you're going to be able to hit those big walls. But Midrange Hunter has a chance to build up a big board, just deal with your board, and then kill you in like one turn with like a high main swing, a Pilot Shredder swing, a kill command, and a quick shot. So it can be tough. Micro Machines actually kind of annoying because you want to deal with it right away. You can't like leave it alone because it'll trade up really, really efficiently.
He's contemplating the Snake Trap here. Because he probably knows that Tom is going to want to trade into this Micro Machine. So maybe he wants to get some snake value going, because then he can set up a Hindmaster if he wants, or he can just go for the high main. But I think he's gone for the Shredder over that because he just wants the high main next turn. So maybe if he didn't have the high main, the Snake Trap might have been a bit better just to give some Hindmaster synergy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was going to trade into it no matter what, so he would have had those snakes if he wanted them.
I really like the Snake Trap there, because you know that a power play is coming up. You have Hunter's Mark in your hand. You know that he's going to trade into the Micro Machine, which is going to leave the Twilight Drake at 1 health. So it either forces him to AoE, or it forces him to not play a big threat, or he plays a big threat anyway. You deal with it easily with Hunter's Mark, and you play your high main anyway because it's turn 6. I really would have liked the Snake Trap there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. And he also had the option of Hindmaster and a Snake if you want to, with a shot if you wanted to go that. He had more.
Yeah, very true.
I think he has more stable plays this turn if he had gone for the Snake Trap, whereas now it's a bit clunky. I mean, he could Hounds now, he could clear these two guys, which is fine, but then he's got free mana. You know, what do you do with that free mana? Do you just shot and pass? It seems a bit suboptimal.
Yeah.
But actually, it looks like he's just going for the high main here. Just slam that high main.
So interesting, the lineup choices here. I mean, he has to be thinking of something. Like, what? There has to be something that he's playing around, because he thought about it for a while. He moused over it and then made the decision not to play it. So.
Oh, he just goes for the face.
Yeah.
Just smoking away.
Yeah, there is a Molten, but no way to activate it. Putting him at like 1 mana below, or 1 health below his mana, so that he can't play Molten plus something else, is where you want to be. But he doesn't really have much direct damage. He does have Hunter's Mark and Unleash, which can get through a small portion of a wall. All right, let's see what's going to come out of this little guy.
Doomsayer, the one he's wanted so much from these shredders.
Yeah. I don't know if he wants it now, though.
Man, if he got Doomsayer from the shred now, I'd just be so upset.
Yeah. Even Scavenging Hyena would be great. He's been getting Scavenging Hyenas. He could trade in. and then have a way to deal with this Mountain Giant. Oh, Kobold.
Okay, so it's KDG's favorite card. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it KDG's favorite card?
It's KDG, yeah. Ooh, Kill Command. 4, 9. No, not enough. But he does have Houndmaster, so he's going to be able to start pushing for damage. He's got direct damage in his hand, so he could do... he could actually do 8 damage this turn and set up for Quick Shot, Kill Command, Hero Power for a win next turn. The problem is he going to have a beast that survives in order to activate Kill Command? Does he just throw out Kill Command right now? But then he doesn't believe in Hero Power. Oh, man, yeah. I think he just has to... Wow, this turn is actually really tough. This is one of those crucial turns because a lot of times you only have one opening as the mid-range hunter. You have to find a balance between like dealing damage and playing around stuff like Molten Giants and anti-heal bots. So if you put them too low and then the anti-heal bots back up and you've used too much of your burn already, then you're probably not going to win.
Yeah, this could give Tom an opportunity to say Molten Giant heal bot, and then the board just swings so heavily in Tom's favor. But if he was to commit to a Kill Command here, or even a Hunter's Mark, it could, like I said, he could use too much burst, and the Warlock will just sustain.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that Hunter's Mark there?
I like it because it keeps you bored, and you do get punished by Molten Taunt, but I think he might have made the read that he didn't have it because you can't really play around it too much. Leopard Gnome could be really helpful because it's sort of that extra 2 damage that you're banking for the following turn. Like, it's not like it gets through taunts no matter what. It's going to do 2 damage no matter what. So it's actually a pretty good draw at this point. It's one of the only low drops that's actually good for him at this stage.
Yeah, it's just like that. It's just that extra bit of push for the Hunter to secure the game, which he kind of needs now because he's going to commit a Kill Command to the Sludge Belcher here, and this is one of the ways he's going to close out the game if Tom can't stabilize the board. But it's Handlock, man. They have so many taunt activators, so many things that stop the Hunter from doing direct damage. So he's Kill Commanded this now. So he's going to commit that.
It's 1 damage off lethal. That's... Oh, no, sorry. 3 damage. I was calculating the Leopard Gnome damage already. But I still think he's in a pretty good spot. He's going to slam in for 4 here, 8 damage. He's got 5 damage from hand with just Quick Shot and Hero Power, and then 2 damage on the board guaranteed. So he sets himself up for lethal next turn if there's no heal. Like, no matter what.
Trap. I like this trap as well because Tom doesn't know what it is, and it just creates another layer of mind games.
Yeah. Ooh, he needs a heal. Oh no! I think that's it.
He can still tap into Healbot, but I don't think he'll matter now.
That's his only hope. Oh no! Okay, so if he taps into Healbot, he'd be at 10 health, and he'd be dead anyway. So yeah. That's it.
So finally, Buckbeard's Hunter takes that win he's been so hungry for. He fought 3 losing matches in the previous set against KDG and couldn't secure that win, so I bet he's relieved now. Finally, Hunter, you've done your job.
Yep. And finally get to win, even just a win in general, not even specifically with Hunter. So both players on the board for the first time today, tying it up 1-1. And both players sort of taking wins with the decks that it feels like they struggled with the most in their first series. So Buckbeard still has the Tempo Mage remaining and Warrior that we haven't seen yet. Could be Patron Warrior, it could be Control Warrior. I'm guessing Patron.
Yeah,
because especially in open tournaments, Patron seems to be the go-to. But again, we're not going to see it yet. It's going to be Tom's Druid versus Buckbeard's Tempo Mage.
So we see an Innovate in Tom's hand. I'm sure he's happy with that. Depends what he gets in his next 2 cards. But Tempo Mage is a deck that can really just snowball out of control before Druid has any opportunity to deal with its threats.
Yeah.
And the key card in this matchup, which is in his hand, which is a bit unfortunate, is Mirror Entity. You know, we know these Druids like to drop these big minions, and they kind of try and drop them on curve from kind of turn 4 onwards. But you never want to give an aggro deck a strong minion like that, and Druids in most cases don't have any choice.
Big thing here, though, is Tom actually has Wild Growth into Innervate Emperor. But we do see that Buckbeard has Fireball to be able to answer it, so...
I like a Scientist play here.
Yeah.
I mean, Mirror Entity squeezes in that 1 extra damage. You may be able to pull another minion that's quite cheap to drop with his Mana Worm, but Mad Scientist puts on the threat of Mirror Entity straight from the get-go, and then he's got that other Mirror Entity in his hand already, so he can actually set that up on a turn he wants to steal something big. So, like, going into Tom's turn 7, he could set the Mirror Entity before then, so it stops him from playing stuff like Dr. Boom or Ancient of Lore. So having that 1 Mirror Entity in hand is not that terrible, because he gets to choose when he wants to stop the Druid from playing something big and having to play around it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that it was going to be this tough of a decision. But he ends up playing the Mad Scientist instead. Unstable Portal is my favorite card in the entire game. By far. Not even close. Even if you pull something bad from it, it still feels great. Like, it's... I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
As long as it's a 2-drop or above, you can be pretty happy. It can only cost you 2 mana. Yeah, but Unstable Portal's just that crazy card that's capable of anything. It can change the dynamic of a match so heavily with some of the cards you can get.
Yeah. Oh, 2 Unstable Portals. Well, Coin Fireball is pretty much an automatic here. You don't want to leave that thing up for more than 1 turn. I mean, he can like coin double Unstable Portal and like trade in, but just Fireball is a really nice, clean way to deal with this. He can start piling on more damage, and that Emperor didn't get too much value. It basically just drew an Innervate and a half.
Yeah, it wasn't the best Emperor. It was quite early as well, which where Emperor suffers because you haven't got that giant hand. But it's still a 5/5, which is going to reduce your hand cost. It's worth playing. I'm not saying you shouldn't play it, but the response here was very good for Buckbeard. He got a fire. He got to deal with it cleanly, like you said, and he got a 3/3 out of it. In that Mana Worm.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it before. When you're playing unfavorable matchups, which this one is unfavorable for the Druid, you need to sort of take calculated risks, and that is a risk because you're using a lot. He used half his hand in order to get an Emperor Thaurissan out on turn 3. But imagine if Buckbeard didn't have a way to deal with it, a 5/5 would have lived, and he would have gotten an extra turn of reducing his hand cost, which would have included 1 more card. So
I would go as far to say as this Keeper was quite good for Buckbeard because Keeper is one of the cards that Druid will throw into a Mirror Entity because it doesn't have as much value as, say, a Druidiclaw or something. So it's usually a good option for the Druid to kind of stuff that Mirror Entity, but that's one of his keepers out the way, so his Mirror Entity might be able to pick up something a bit more valuable, but Tom does have that BGH. He may opt to use that to soak up the Mirror Entity and get a clean trade on it next turn with that 2/2.
Yeah, but we know that Buckbeard runs Dr. Boom, and with the slower version of Temple Mage, I'm guessing he runs Rag as well. So if he plays BGH in the Mirror Entity, which I think is his only choice, he actually doesn't even know what secret it is, so he has to test for it first. Alright, it is Mirror Entity. He's not going to have that later on, so could be rough. He is going to be able to clear the board here, though.
Yeah, this is pretty good clear for him.
Yeah. But he's starting to run out of cards. He's going to be able to play Cenarius next turn, but once Cenarius is gone, he needs to draw into like Ancient of Lore very quickly.
Oh, wow. A Mirror Entity play this turn would be fantastic. It might lock out the Cenarius. I mean, if Tom doesn't draw another minion to soak up the Mirror Entity, he may not have anything to play next turn. Or he may just have to give him a 5/8, and you never want to give that. I want to see a Mirror Entity here. I mean,
Yeah.
the Belcher is really tempting because it stops the BGH. He needs to commit a hero power to clear the first part of the Belcher.
Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier, turn 7, 8, 9, this is the Druid's big play turns. Stop them from playing those big cards.
Yeah. Man, I really don't like Sludge Belcher here because it allows him an easy trade into the Sludge Belcher. Yeah, it blocks damage, but I would rather have the BGH trade into my Sorcerer's Apprentice than trade into my Sludge Belcher with a hero power.
Yeah,
But-
I agree.
Yeah, he realizes, and he's at full health. Oh well. Now Cenarius is going to come down, and Cenarius is actually going to be pretty problematic. Even though we said Tom's running out of cards, this is Tempo Mage relies on tempo, and right now he's going to be quite a bit behind on tempo. He's going to need some really big swing cards from these unstable portals, or a really powerful spell next turn, in order to try and swing this game back.
Going back to last turn, he could have played Sorcerer's Apprentice, then he could have played Mirror Entity for 2 mana, and then he could have had 2 1-mana unstable portals. So he would have gained board from Mirror Entity, and he would have recharged his hand with 2 minions from the unstable portals, which could be anything really. And he would have set up the threat of Mirror Entity, stopping him from dropping stuff to something like Cenarius this turn. So
Yeah.
I would go as far to say that was a misplay,
Yeah.
playing the Belcher
Well,
there.
This turn he can do everything again, plus add a Mana Worm on top of it. So I guess it works out, but he's going to need some big stuff. Okay, Unstable Portal. Oh
Hey.
no!
The thing you don't want to see.
Yeah. Dark Iron Dwarf could be useful to trade up, and 1 mana 4/4 is pretty decent. But those are 2 relatively underwhelming Unstable Portals, I'd say.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we see a Keeper of the Grove here to soak up the last part of the Mirror Entity.
And a
as well.
swipe. Wow.
So first things first, let's test to see if this is a Mirror Entity, because if it's not, he probably doesn't want to throw that swipe into a counter spell.
Hmm.
Wow, he's going to get such a good clear here.
Yeah. Well, the one awkward part is by playing Keeper, he doesn't allow himself to hero power. But I don't think he can't afford to throw a swipe in and have it be counterspell. So, since he can't hero power, he's going to have to throw either his Cenarius into one of these creatures, or yeah, he's going to have to throw Cenarius into one of the creatures to clear it off, which isn't the
Yeah,
worst
that's
thing, I suppose.
No, he's still got that 5/8 sitting there, which is a bit problematic for the mage. I mean, if Fireball doesn't deal with it cleanly, he needs to commit some other stuff to it. Maybe an extra turn, maybe a hero power or a spell power buff from relying on spell power buff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit awkward. I think Tom's stabilized here as long as he starts drawing stuff, useful stuff.
Yeah. Ooh, Mad
Oh.
Scientist. I don't think he has any secrets left. He's used both Mirror Entities, unless he runs a counterspell and we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's true. That could some tempo mages do run counter spells, some don't. Most tempo mages do, though. I find.
Yeah. With this slower one, I'm actually not sure because I'm not as familiar with this deck as some of the faster ones that like don't run Sludge Belchers, the ones that run Mechanical Yetis, potentially Toshleys.
I really like Toshli in tempo mage. I think he doesn't fit into all of them, but the card itself, its text, just fits the deck theme so well.
Yeah.
And he's a 5/7 as well. That's a bulky minion.
Yeah, and he's not too expensive either. The one part is a lot of times that 6 slot is filled.
Yeah, Forason, Sylvanas, like those two guys. I think Forason's. If you're gonna put Toshli in, I think you'd have to take out Forason over
Yeah.
Sylvanas, because Sylvanas swings the board too much, whereas Tempo Mage might not have all the card. It might not have a full hand all the time to utilize Forason.
Yeah.
So he just runs into the Sludge Belcher here. This Dark Iron Dwarf will be able to trade into it cleanly as long as it stays alive. This Druid Claw could deal with that problem for him if he chooses, or he could just set it up as a taunt, just to kind of create a wall for Cenarius. It depends which line of play he wants to take here.
Mm-hmm.
I think either one's fine.
Yeah. True to the Claw. Yeah, this one is... Unless Buckbeard can like draw into Flame Strike like this turn. Kazan Mystic is not what he wanted to see there. Now he's gonna have to like trade in both of his creatures and play Kazan Mystic, and it doesn't even contest the full board.
It doesn't even contest Cenarius because he can just run the 2/3 and the hero power into it.
Yeah.
So Cenarius sticks around for even longer. This Cenarius is doing some work here.
Yeah. All right, and he actually doesn't run a third secret, so double mirror entity is it. So, Mad Scientist is not gonna pull anything. And Lotheb as well. That's gonna pretty much secure his creatures for being able to survive the next turn. Because even if he draws into something crazy here, and he can Savage Roar to clear it and just start putting on damage. Wow.
So, what wins Buckbeard the game? I don't think there's anything.
Nothing. He Savage Roars and decides to trade in. Huh.
I wonder what he's afraid of there.
He knows he's not going to kill him next turn, so he's afraid of, Fireball into Fireball. But he's seen one Fireball already, huh? Because Fireball killed his Thaurissan.
Yeah, I think he could have used his health there as a tool to get rid of that Kezan and just kept more Lord.
An Ancient of Lore to top it all off as well.
A natural mistake.
He could have had lethal if he drew into Savage Roar, I think, is why he said a natural mistake. He doesn't get punished for it. Oh no, he wouldn't have had lethal. It would have been he was at 19 health. He would have had 10 damage on board. It would have been 10 plus 7. So I mean, I guess there was no way he could have had it.
I think
you still want to draw first. Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Just to protect himself from any possible combination. Like if he drew into Archmage Antonidas plus... I don't know.
How? I don't think Tom would have lost at all if he had healed.
Emergency coolant.
So Tom takes that game with the Druid, a class which I mentioned earlier that some players don't like in the Conquest format, but both Tom and KDG have utilized it pretty well this tournament. So it's just a hand lock left for Tom, and we still have the... Is that a Mystery Warrior still?
Mystery Warrior. We're not sure what it is yet.
So we're assuming Patron just because of its general strength in the metagame right now, but it could be Dragon Control, it could be just general control, or maybe he likes a big fan of Life Coach and he's going to play Mech Warrior, who knows?
Yeah. Mech Warrior. I've tried Mech Warrior quite a few times. Mech Hobgoblin Warrior, it's terrible. Like, I really love Hobgoblin and I really love Warrior, so I tried and put them together, and I was theory crafting and I said, Warrior already plays a lot of really valuable one-attack creatures. Armorsmith, Acolyte of Pain, like Warbot fits right into that category. It's a mech and it's a one-drop or a one-attack creature.
You got Noyotron as well.
A Noyotron, it's like it feels like it fit perfectly, but no, it's terrible.
I think the problem with Hobgoblin is it's too slow. Oh, he's going to be able to ramp some stuff out if this portal stays
Summoning
down.
Portal.
He portaled into a portal, so it's a bit of portalception there.
Okay, so Summoning Portal reduces the cost of your creatures by what? 3 or 2?
I think it's 3. I've never actually used the card outside of probably Arena. So what if he was an unstable portal into another portal and then portaled his portal out? We'd have
nuts.
Christopher Nolan would love this game.
Alright, well, Summoning Portal... Oh my goodness.
The synergy!
Tom is laughing. He's like, how do I kill that thing? It's got 4 health. So next turn he could play Emperor Thaurissan.
Well, if he wanted to be super aggressive, he could ping his own Worgen and start wind fearing away at this Warlock.
That's true, yeah. I think I think playing Emperor Thorson as a mage on turn 4 is pretty. Oh my goodness, this is nuts.
All right, so he plays the Forest next turn. Tom doesn't deal with the portal still, so he has the reduced cost from the portal and the reduced cost from the Forest. So he might even. Would you be able to play Rag next turn? No.
Rag on
Rag
turn.
would-
You could if both lived. Yeah, Rag would be reduced to 5, and you could play the
Well,
Rag.
throws
Well,
out the
okay.
well played.
So Thorsan's going to come down, and he's setting this board up for a Shadow Flame. So he's going to Shadow Flame next turn, but Emperor Thorsan will live. So it's going to get 2 turns of value.
And I think Summon Portal's done its job here, even if it does get Shadow Flamed. I mean, he's got a turn 4. He's managed to ramp out this Forest so early, and he's going to get a turn 5 Rag as well.
That is crazy.
Well, actually, no, he's going to lose the Summon Portal, my mistake, but still, he's going to get a turn 6 Rag, right?
Yeah, turn 6 Rag. It's going to be reduced this turn. Oh my goodness. And he can actually Loatheb here to take out the potential for Mortal Coil, because Mortal Coil would cost 6. He'd only be on 5 mana, wouldn't be able to coin. So if he Loathebs here,
He protects his Forest for another turn.
he protects his Thorsan for another turn. He might want to get more value out of his cards because he sees Loatheb cost 4, so he might be able to use that later on. And he might just play Azure Drake here to get more value out of the Thorsan this turn. But that is just so powerful.
I would definitely slam Loatheb here. 2 5/5s, one that will definitely be protected from any spells next turn, and then he has Rag to follow up straight after.
Yeah. Reducing the cost of Sorcerer's Apprentice is actually a big deal also, because it allows you to chain together spells that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to chain together the next turn. It's not looking too bad for Tom. He does have heals. He does have Siphon Soul for the Rag. So he does have tools, but that Rag's going to do a lot of damage before.
I was just thinking then, if he'd played Loatheb and then Frostbolted, next turn he could play Ragnaros, and then he could hit for lethal. He'd have a 50-50 lethal off the Rag shot if he played a minion.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I mean, we do see a heal bot in Tom's hand, but that could have been an option for him. That would have been a super aggressive version of Tempo Mage, but as we've kind of seen from Buckbeard's deck building choices here, he's gone for more of a control-y style of Tempo Mage with those belchers, so it probably doesn't really complement his playstyle, going for something like that.
Yeah. Alright, well, Loatheb comes down this turn, and he actually sets up for lethal next turn regardless. And I don't think there's a way that Tom can win from this point. He's probably going to play Healbot. And playing Healbot will put him up to 11, but Tom could just... Oh no, he's going to taunt up. Okay.
I think that's a better option, probably.
Yeah, that definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
'Cause
But I think this is lethal anyway. No, because he can't ping. Actually, no. No, it is. Yeah, it's lethal. Yeah. Frostbolt in, trade one of your creatures, throw the Sludge Belcher in, and then you have 5 damage plus the 8 from the Rag, which is 13. Alright.
Wow. Portalception.
I don't know if you could even be too upset if you're Tom in that situation. It's very rare that you see those types of really cool interactions with Unstable Portal. And you could see him when he saw the Summoning Portal at first smile, and then when he had to play the Shadow Flame on turn 4 to clear off just a Summoning Portal and a Raging Worgen, he threw out the well played and kind of laughed it off. So a really fun game, and it's going to be tied up 2-2.
I can see why Unstable Portal's your favorite card now.
Yeah, it puts interactions in the game that would never be there. It's just, it makes you, a lot of times it puts you in a situation where you have to think more. Puts you in a situation where your deck isn't optimized. You're not just playing like an optimized deck. That's why the Mage Class Challenge from...
Was it Nax?
No.
No.
BlackRock.
Blackrock.
Yeah, with the wasn't that, no, because it was a GVG card. It's
Yeah, it
just
was a black.
the most fun thing ever. 30 unstable portals.
It was like its own mini game within Hearthstone.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really cool. It was one of the coolest things they did with the kind of adventure expansions, and the hunter one with the web spinners. That was
Oh yeah, the web spinners. Yeah. But getting every minion in the entire game is a little more exciting than just getting a beast. To be fair,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Um,
So this is down to the wire now. It's going to be a 3-2. Both these players got 3-0'd by the respective opponents in the first round, so they've managed to take this right down to the last game. They're both going down swinging this time. So we do see a Patron Warrior. We were kind of umming and ahhing about what Buck was bringing, because Control Warrior isn't as viable as Patron Warrior as far as meta is concerned, but it's still a good deck. Dragon Warrior can still do a lot of work, but it is Patron, and I'm not surprised to see this.
Yeah. Now this matchup's a little bit rough for the Patron Warrior. A lot of players have been teching in Big Game Hunter to make their matchup against Handlock better, because Handlock is one of the weaker matchups for the deck, and they do have a little wiggle room with what they can cut. So the main win condition here for the Patron Warrior is just big frothing berserkers. Getting to a turn where you can get through a taunt wall with execute or BGH, and being able to swing for with Frothing Berserker on the same turn. So you have very small windows of opportunity to actually win the game with Patron Warrior when you're playing against Handlock. And it's tough. You have to sort of put yourself in a situation where you're thinking multiple turns ahead and predicting what the Handlock is going to do multiple turns in advance.
All right.
Just going to
This is a good
Death Bite.
Yeah, this is a good matchup for Tom. I mean, he should be pretty happy when he finds out this is Patron Warrior. But Patron Warrior is just one of those decks that can kind of squeeze a win out of anything if it's got the right combinations.
Yeah.
I find it interesting he didn't attack with the Death Bite, because you kind of want that activator readily available to you at the right time, rather than having to kind of maybe have to play around getting the Death Bite to come out at the correct moment. So if you kind of attack straight away, it's there and it's ready. Whereas he might have found it a bit awkward using it if he didn't have like the right place. So, but he just attacks with it. It didn't actually matter in the end. But I find a lot of Patron Warriors want that axe set up ready to like kick off when it needs to be done.
Well, this is actually he is lethal next turn. As long as if there's no taunt, he is lethal next turn. Because he's got 4 damage from Deathbite, Frothing Berserker, Warsong Commander, Dread Corsair. So that would be at least 4 extra damage from the Deathbite. So that'd be 6 for the Frothing Berserker. So that'd be a total of 10. So he would just need 8 more, which both inner rages are 3 damage plus Dread Corsair. I think that's game.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Warsong Commander, Frothing Berserker, Dread Corsair. Attack with Dread Corsair. Attack with the Deathbite Whirlwind. Okay, let me do the math. So the Frothing Berserker will get an extra 5 damage from the creatures on board, so be at 7. So it's 11 damage total. 3 damage each from the inner rages, so that'll be 17 damage total. He'd need 5 more. Oh no, it's not quite lethal.
No, he gets an extra 1 damage from each. Oh yeah, so yeah, 3 damage. So
yeah. I think he has 19 or 20 damage. So 7 plus 11 plus 6, 17 plus... Oh, he's got 20 damage. 20 damage!
This is this is the miracle rogue days where they could dish out 20 damage on a like maybe not even this early, really. Not even Miracle Rogue could punch out that much damage this early on a turn 6. It still needed an extra. It needed to be like turn 8 or something for Miracle Rogue to punch out those Leroy combos. But wow, this is the reach of Patron Warrior right here. Being able to deal 20 damage on turn 6, like it's nothing.
He just armored up. Oh my god. Oh man.
He needed to do something. He needed to take him down at least 2.
Yeah, well that's that's pretty much game because Tom's gonna realize this, and he's almost for sure gonna taunt up. And once this wall comes up, it's almost impossible for Buckbeard to get through this. Wow, 2 damage off.
That's tragic.
Yeah, well, Thorsan might open up opportunities.
He needs some executes, though. But ideally, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is tough. I
And
mean,
he's already
like,
used one execute, so
I think what happened with Buckbeard there, he calculated the 20 damage in his head, and then by the time he'd figured it out, he's just like, oh, what do I do now? I can't beat him. I need
Yeah.
to do something else. And then the rope was going down. He's like, oh, just hit the armor button.
I think
and
the
I'll
only
pass.
I think the only thing he could have hoped for is that Tom didn't have a taunt giver. Like if Tom had played like a mountain giant that turn, then he would have won. Or 2 creatures or something. I don't know. Like or tapped into something. Then he would have won. Tapped into something that wasn't a taunt. But now let's see. He can play 5 mana. He can make a big battle rage play this turn.
He's got Sylvanas coming up as well. Thomas, he's just Siphon Sold for an extra 3 health, so he puts him even further out of reach now. Oh, and he gets more Torn.
And he sets up lethal next turn too. So, yeah, I think that's. I don't think Buckbeard can win from this stage.
Yeah.
He's going to have to go for a big battle rage turn here and try and draw onto executes and Morwinds, and he could play Warsong Commander and Grim Patron, and then Interrages, clear the board and try and draw. But he needs to go like now.
He's got a lot of card interactions that need to play through on the board, and he might run out of time if he's not careful.
Yeah, he needs to go. Like, at this stage, you're going to lose anyway, so just start doing things and hope that it works out in the end, is what needs to happen. Even the card draw from Battle Rage takes a long time.
So he needs Frothman down now, because Frothman's going to be the creature to do it.
Oh, wait. Can he get through this? I don't think so. Actually, he might. Nah, he's out of time. There's no way.
He's out of time, yeah, that's true. Like you said, he needed to just think, right, he just needed to generate a quick game plan. I need to draw cards, I need to draw executes, etc., etc. Start throwing stuff down, start getting some interactions up, and see what happens. Tom looks on, not impressed.
Yeah, not impressed. Yeah, he needed to just start doing things. There was a chance that turn might have been able to resolve. Oh, and he steals the Frothing Berserker. Oh no, that's heartbreaking. And you know, he actually, if it stole the Warsong Commander, and he was able to get a second Interrage off, he had lethal. So there was actually a way for him to win, which is the funny thing. If he had traded in one Grim Patron, then Interraged, traded in the second Grim Patron, then killed the Sylvanas would have to stolen the Warsong Commander, and then he could have attacked in with the Frothing Berserker. So there actually was a lethal opportunity in there. He just didn't go quick enough. He didn't start his turn fast enough.
But I think that's part of the skill of playing Patron Warrior. There's a lot of decisions to make, and they're quite tight as well, these decisions, because you have to calculate. It's a maths deck through and through. Like, when you get to that point where you need to make this big combo to win a game, you need to be really on form with your maths and decision making. You need to be able to make all the lines of play kind of in an order in your head, and then execute it in time before the rope, because you've got card interactions that need to resolve.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that after all that, he still had a chance to win, which is pretty crazy to think about. Like, I just looked at it from the surface. I was like, oh, there's no way that he could do it. But he actually could have done it if he had just gone a little bit faster. But Tom is going to take third place. So he gets 7 Geico points, 1 World Championship points, and 50 Buckbeard's not going to go away empty-handed. He does take 5 Geico points and 1 Hearthstone World Championship point. But, of course, next up is going to be KDG versus Mirari. That's going to be the finals of this qualifier. I think that's going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think so. So we got Asia versus Europe. Who will prevail? I mean, Mirari is, in respect, defending European soil here. This is an EU tournament, and KDG from Korea has come through with his EU account, and he's managed to get to the grand final. So Mirari's not only fighting for some money and some points, Geico and World Championship, he's defending Europe here.
Yeah. Before we go on the break, we just want to give you guys a quick reminder. Big shout out to Geico for making this summer circuit possible. The premier open tournament for the summer, probably the #1 open tournament for the summer, is the One Nation of Gamers. Make sure you head over to geico.onog.gg for more information about the upcoming tournaments. You can also get a quote from Geico, and you can also enter in for a chance to win an official TSM PC. So during the break, make sure you head over to that website, get all that info. Of course, next up is going to be the finals for the EU qualifier #2. It is going to be KDG versus Mirari, but that's going to be coming up right after this break.
All right, I'm going to go top up my drink.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit. This is the EU qualifier number 2 finals. We're about to jump into the final match of the day. It is going to be KDG versus Mirari. Once again, I'm TJ, joined with Aquablad. This is going to be a pretty exciting final, and I'm going to ask you for your predictions, Aquablad.
It's tough, man. We've had a clean sweep from both these players, and they've both played exceptionally well so far. But wow, yeah. I'm gonna go with Mirari here. You know,
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the EU. I want EU to take this tournament over Asia, and I've met Fake as well, and Fake's an excellent guy. You know, so I'm gonna support MYI in this one. What about you?
Judging by their decks so far, it feels like Mirari's got a little bit of a better hold on sort of this open tournament deck building. He's got 3 very fast decks that will punish you not only for making mistakes, but for also having slower decks. KDG, it seems like his decks aren't, I don't want to say like optimal, but he has Oil Rogue, which can fall to any 3 of these decks. He's got Mech Mage, which just seems to be sort of the weaker version of faster mages right now. And it gets eaten up by all 3 of these decks from Mirari. And then he's got Druid, which also has the tendency to just fall to the faster decks. So I want to see KDG take it, because I sort of have to be that the balance here. But it seems like Mirari has a really good grasp on this matchup with his deck list.
I think you're right there. The Mirari has the unholy trinity of classes right now, the top 3 classes in the meta, whereas KDG has decks that are outside the kind of top tier decks right now. Oil Rogue's considered to be among the Hunter, Warlock, the Warrior trio right now. It's kind of just mixed in. Druid is just outside, but Mech Mage, it's a deck that's fallen off quite recently because of faster mage decks like the Tempo Mage. So yeah, Mirari on paper definitely has a stronger presence here, but KDG, you know, he has some interesting tech cards in his deck, like Kezan in his mage, and he had Forasan and Big Game Hunter and South Sea Deckhand in his rogue, and he's got Harrison in his druid. So, you know, maybe these tech cards will come into play. Maybe they will swing it in his favor. Who knows? We'll have to see. We've had some crazy games today.
Yeah, the Summoning Portal from Unstable Portal, which allowed for a turn 4 Emperor Thorsan, which allowed for a turn 6 Rag. Pretty crazy stuff. We made the prediction earlier that KDG might be bringing these decks because he's a Korean player, and getting cards on EU is actually kind of hard. Usually if the Asian players play on a different server, it's usually the North American servers. And EU server is sort of the 3rd one that they play on if they want to. So he might not have a lot of cards. Mech Mage is one of the cheaper decks. Rogue is one of the cheaper decks. Druid,
It's hit or miss.
it's got a lot of epics. Yeah, but I don't know. The Asian players really love to play Druid.
I mean,
so
if you compare KDG to, say, Tom, for example, I see Tom playing a lot in Gfinity qualifiers, and I don't know if he plays in the premium as much as he used to, but yeah, he plays in the qualifiers, and he qualified for the first Gfinity Spring Masters. So he must have had a lot of the cards on EU already, whereas KDG is a player I'm not too familiar with. So again, like you said, EU's kind of the 3rd choice. NA usually takes priority, so maybe he's just trying to kind of slap some decks together that he could afford, because it is quite a lot of money to build a competitive account straight from scratch without investing a lot of time.
yeah, a long time ago I tried to get cards on EU and I gave up. I need to start doing it again because I need like 2 opportunities to get BlizzCon points every month, but it's just yeah, you're right. It's really tough to build double the collection effectively. And first matchup is going to be the Patron Warrior from Mirari versus the Druid from KDG, and we've seen firsthand today that this matchup can be pretty rough for the Druid player.
Yeah, that's true. He's got a pretty strong hand, though. He's got coin into Shredder, then he has Shredder to follow up straight after, and then he's got whatever he draws into next, or Druid Claw. So he's got like a perfect curve almost. But it's Patron Warrior. They're capable of anything, man. They can.
Yeah.
Such a swinging deck. It just swings back and forth with you. And usually, when a Patron Warrior swings, swings the tempo of the game. It swings it hard.
Yeah. So he actually just goes ahead and throws out the Keeper here for two reasons. One, card draw is the most important part in the early game for Grim Patron Warrior, so you want to deny that. And two, as the game goes on, the Keeper can sometimes become a liability because it's two attack, so it plays right into Patrons, which can just bounce off. So even though it seemed like he had like a perfect curve with Pilot Shredder and stuff, it might not have been. Ooh, Pint-Sized Summoner. It's like a miniature summoning portal that only is effective for your first minion. It costs 2 mana instead of 4. Not quite as exciting.
I must say, Pint-Sized Summoner has done some work for me on ladder today. It's let me play like turn 5 Fire Elementals with Mech Shaman. I've had about 3 of them on ladder in about 12 games, and they've swung the game for me because I've been able to drop, say, a Fire Elemental really early, or a Fel Reaver. So
or an Emperor Thorsan on turn 5, perhaps.
Yep, and that's great for a druid. He's gonna make he's gonna be able to flood the board with bigger things faster now. And the thing with druids minions, apart from the shade which grows anyway, it's not something that interacts with Patron that well, unlike other decks. Like you said, the Keeper of the Grove is a bit of a burden on you the later you keep it because it interacts so well with the Grim Patron, but he's got rid of that now, and everything in his hand is bulky, and he's going to rely on whirlwind effects and iteration and stuff to build that Patron board.
Yeah. Now this is actually a really good hand to get reduced by Emperor Thorsan if you're Mirari. He's actually got Warsong Commander, Grim Patron, and Double Whirlwind next turn, and he can even throw in an Execute. So if I was... Yeah, he's definitely going to trade in the Pint-Sized Summoner here.
I mean, Pint-Sized Summoner has done his job.
Yeah.
You got a cheap Pharazôn, you got a cheap Azure Drake. That's some good value from that Shredder.
Yeah. But I think you just sort of go all in here with the Double Whirlwind because you can clear off the Shade as well as everything here. Ooh, Battle Rage. He's 1 mana off being able to Battle Rage too. That's rough. But I don't think it really changes the play. So Warsong Commander, Grim Patron, he's going to put 4 Grim Patrons on the board, take out the Shade, and he's going to be able to execute the Thorsan as well. So he's going to be left with, I believe, 3 Grim Patrons after this turn.
And he clears the board.
And he clears the board, yeah, that's the important thing.
And if these Patrons stick around, he gets a really good Battle Rage next turn as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And he can also keep the train going because he has another Grim Patron in his hand. The one bad thing about this is the Warsong Commander just dies to Hero Power. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Oh, he actually has combo.
Yeah, Thorsan lived for 2 turns. That's brutal, actually. This is a full board clear.
Wow. It's not very often Druid gets the option to do this at this turn because obviously Pharazôn reduced his hand cost, but usually you'd have to wait until turn 9, and it's usually too late for the Druid because there's just so much stuff on board that they can't deal with. And I mean, 3 damage is not a lot on its own, but when it keeps getting multiplied, it's excellent.
Yeah. Wow, that's actually a really big swing of events there for KDG, because now he's going to be able to start building up the board here. He's got a really great hand. He knows that sort of that first hurrah is gone. Frothing Berserker doesn't help. He's going to have to Battle Rage for 1 and hope he draws into something that's going to help him out. Oh, Deathbite. That's pretty solid.
So he's going to want another... Oh, wow. That's not what you want to see from your Shredder against Patron Warrior.
No. I'm surprised why he attacked into it. This makes it... He might Keeper... Oh,
yeah,
no,
I was just thinking
he can trade it in, yeah. Huh. He wanted to keep that healthy, because now he's going to be able to Harrison the Deathbite here, and I guess it's okay. Yeah.
I think we're at the point now where this druid is sustaining. Oh, he's just gonna keep her, I guess.
I don't know if I like keeping the unstable ghoul on the board.
No, I don't like it at all. Why would you keep a minion that benefits your opponent? Because he gets no benefit from this unstable ghoul. Like the only thing it's gonna do is make more patrons. He had an opportunity to get rid of it there, but not only that, he set up a 2/4 as well. So let's just say Mirari drew a Warsong Commander instead of that Inner Rage. He would have had, well, he just would have filled up his board with patrons again.
I think it would have been lethal because he had Frothing Berserker as well. So that was a little bit dangerous, but in the end, KDD does end up winning. So big swing turn where he was able to keep his Thaurissan on the board for an extra turn, which allowed him to turn 7 combo, which kept him in the game and allowed him to push for the win. So KDG is going to take a 1-game lead in the series, which is a big victory for him because that Druid would have struggled against all 3 of these decks. So taking it the win against probably the deck that counters it the most is a pretty big deal for Mirari.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's got that hard matchup for the lineup out of the way now, so should be smooth sailings from here. But he does have Mech Mage, which I think Mech Mage is a good deck. It's just not as good as Tempo Mage at the moment. And Mech Mage does. I've played a lot of Mech Mage, and I was playing it when Patron became popular. But I ran a version where you ran Water Elementals instead of Frostbolts, and you ran Harrison and Blingtron. So you just had a constant freeze. So you constantly locked down the warriors' weapons, and like the Water Elementals trading very well with a lot of the minions that the Patron drops. But I don't think that's that variation. I can't really comment on how the standard Mech Mage does against Patron because I haven't played it for a long time. I've played this Kaldi version. I'll call it the Kaldi version because that's where I got it from. Kaldi's version for quite some time. How do you feel the matchup plays?
I think it's highly in favor of the Patron Warrior because usually they can get board clears really easily. But cards like Snow Chugger make it kind of difficult. But you look at the hand already. I mean, he's got Slam. Like next turn he could Slam and Fiery War Axe. Or even just slam Cruel Taskmaster and basically deal with the entire board. The one thing is that he could get punished for leaving this Mech Warper up for an additional turn, but he's going to have plenty of options. And once you stabilize once against Mech Mage, that's usually the game. They don't have enough longevity. They don't create enough tempo early on to be able to just close you out. Usually they rely on gaining a huge board with mechs and then burning you out with spells. So I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, one of the poor interactions Mech Mage has with the Patron deck is Blast Mage as well. It's generally against everything else, it's brilliant. But when it goes against Patron, like we mentioned before, all their kind of staple minions get interacted with taking damage, and you have no control where the Blast Mage is going to go. But this Snow Chugger is going to do some work here. It's going to be able to lock out this Fiery War Axe for a turn at least.
Yeah. But he does have Cruel Taskmaster, and I can imagine he's just going to slam the Snow Chugger here. And he hasn't taken much damage. Eventually he's going to get to the turn before he dies where he can Warsong Commander Grim Patron. And then from there, it's pretty much just downhill for the Mech Mage. I just don't see too much of a way for him to win. He could even, one of the big things is Mirror Entity is so easy for Grim Patrons. You can actually use Mirror Entity to your advantage. So say your opponent plays Mirror Entity on turn 8. You Warsong Commander and then Grim Patron and use his Warsong Commander to spawn another Grim Patron. So it's Mirror Entity is one of the easiest. This is one of the classes that can more easily deal with Mirror Entity. And Thaurissan too. Oh jeez.
Yeah, you're correct there. It's one of the classes that benefits almost from Mirror Entity sometimes. I mean, if you give them a Armor Smith, they can, if you get an opportunity to give them an Armor Smith, if you've got a Patron combo to back it up as well, you get 2 patrons off that, for example. Yeah. So yeah, I do agree. So he has to clear up this forest, and he has no choice. What's he getting? He's got a few spare parts sitting here. Maybe the Archmage Antonidas can help swing the game in his favor, but he's still relying on drawing that without any draw mechanic.
So the one thing here is that there's no 2 minion creatures to bounce off of. So he's going to have to wait one more turn before he combos, because the combo doesn't accomplish much this turn. There's a Mirror Entity up, so he can spawn a Warsong Commander, but he's only going to get 1 Grim Patron out of that, and he wouldn't be able to keep the ball rolling. So he might just have to develop Fiery War Axe here. And swing at the Spider Tank to hopefully set up for... Oh, wow. Actually, this is looking really rough. I don't know if... Because Dr. Boom's going to come out next turn, and that's the turn that he wants to combo. He'll be able to bounce off the Boombots, but if the Boombots have rough hits, Mirari could be in some trouble.
Yeah, if those Boombots hit the Warsong Commander during the transition of that combo, it can actually just mess everything up completely, because his remaining patrons don't get charged. But one thing to note that KDG did last turn was he put the armor plate in on his 4/4. So I think he was playing around Deathbite there. He wanted him to only be able to take out the Spider Tank or the Cogmaster. And these Boombots will actually buff this Cogmaster back up to a 3/2. So it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good for KDG right now. It's going to very much depend on the interaction the board has with the Warsong Commander.
Yeah. Alright. I think he might have did that out of order. I guess it doesn't matter. This way he gets more Grim Patrons. But yeah, where these Boombots go is going to be a big deal. He's going to attack into the Armorsmith first. So that way he puts more targets on the board. So the Boombots are less likely to hit the Warsong Commander, which is what he doesn't want them to hit. Once he takes out the Boombots...
Oh, here we go.
Actually, I think he just might be dead. Oh, no. That opened up more opportunities for him. Okay. No, he's still dead. Oh, no, he's gaining more armor. Okay. So, 18 damage. Wow, never mind. Yeah, he's going to gain a lot of armor. I was thinking he was going to be dead, because there's actually a lot of damage on the board here for KDG. But he's not going to have quite enough. He can't even play the Clockwork Gnome. So you just have to kill the Warsong Commander and then hope for the best. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Thing is, if you use Fireball, like Fireball is one way out here. I mean, drawing a Fireball would help seal the game. It's tough. Yeah, you have to kill the Warsong Commander.
So
you can't let. But the Armorsmith's a problem too.
Yeah, he could kill the Armorsmith, Fireball the Warsong Commander, ping off the 1/1, the 3/1 Grim Patron. Because if he doesn't kill the Armorsmith, then there's no way he could win. Because there's going to be so much armor game. And then go face and hope he draws into Fireball next turn. I don't know. I don't think there's any way out of this for KDG.
Yeah, I think Mirari's got this. I mean, even if he draws the other Fireball, as long as Mirari clears board and he armors up, he's still out of lethal range. By 1, so yeah. Oh, here's the Frothing Berserker. And the Execute, yeah, he's just got everything he needs.
Yeah, he just needs to make sure that he armors up to play around double Fireball and set up for possible lethal next turn. I believe it is. He's got 15 damage on board with 2 damage from hand. Okay. Dark Mage Antonidas would have helped if Grim Patrons hadn't come out a turn earlier than he expected with the Emperor Thaurissan, but I think that is probably going to be it.
I mean, he can Fireball the Frothing Berserker here, but it's not going to do anything. He just concedes. He knows that he'd lost that one. And if you looked at KGG, he had a good board with the 4/5. He had the Cogmaster. He played Dr. Boom. Everything was looking fantastic. And then the Patron combo happened and swung the game. And that was it. It was Mirari's game straight from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's going to tie up the series 1-1. Both these players have two decks left. One thing we didn't mention before is, well, we sort of mentioned it. Both these players have 3 completely different classes. Like, we have 6 unique classes in this match, which is pretty cool. And we are going to jump into Zoo versus Mech Mage now. I think this is favored in Zoo. I think one of the reasons why Mech Mage was strong was because Zoo wasn't strong. I feel like Zoo is just like a stronger version of Mech Mage with not as much burn. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. That's why another reason why Mech Mage has cycled out now, because Zoo picked up a lot of stuff with the Mal'Ganis and being able to play Dr. Boom, because they never did it before. Classics who never opted for that more mid-range approach, but you can. It's so tempting not to now. Being able to get a 9/7 for free from a Void Caller is just amazing. It's just a massive tempo swing, and ultimately Zoo is a tempo deck. So, and it just out tempos Mage. I actually had a discussion with Admirable about Mech Mage versus Zoo, the last Gfinity, and he says the only way Mech Mage wins that game is if it plays more aggressive than the Zoo. Otherwise, you'll never outvalue the Zoo in trade, because they'll be able to draw more cards than you, and they'll be able to outvalue them with your minions. So, like you said, it's just a poor man's Zoo in this current meta.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And this is sort of exactly the case. I mean, what is he? He going to play Mad Scientist, but Mirror Entity gets pretty easily dealt with by Zoo because they can just throw anything into it.
Anything low cost, Void Walker. I mean, the Nerubian Egg isn't the best, but they still have to ping it they still have to invest 2 turns of hero power to activate it, which is really slow. So ultimately, that's not even too bad itself.
Yeah.
So the Void Walker will stop this in its tracks. What's that? Oh, so he just Dark Bombs it. Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna give him an egg next turn, I think.
Which again, like I just mentioned, you have to invest 4 mana into popping the egg, getting that creeper out. It's just not optimal at all. And this again, this is not great. Not getting the spare part, but also not getting the extra 1 health and 1 attack.
Yeah.
The one thing Mech Mage suffers from, which Zoo doesn't, is it can very much be a goblins and gnomes deck when it wants to be. You could get these hands where you draw just goblins and gnomes, so you don't draw any net mechs, and all these goblins and gnomes cards have mech interactions, and it just destroys the deck. It just stops in its tracks.
Yeah. Well, he uses the owl on the egg that gets Mirror Entity, so this is going to be a good opportunity for Paladin Shredder to stick on the board, especially with Goblin Blast Mage coming down the next turn. Mirari's going to be hoping that the card that he draws this turn is going to be a dud, because he's just going to want to not to discard it. And Abusive Sergeant is actually
the perfect dud, really.
Yeah. That was kind of risky. Okay, I see. Abusive Sergeant, I think, is really good because he has the egg on the board, so I think he's going to wait. But it was sort of a risky move to tap. But trading in first indicated that he wasn't going to play Doomguard, because there's 2 cards that would have stopped him. If he'd gotten Nerubian Weblord or Mana Wraith, he wouldn't have been able to play that Doomguard, which is kind of risky. So
he also drew into the Loatheb, so he can't really play it next turn. You probably want to get value from that Loatheb first.
Yeah.
Okay, so he pings the. So he's gonna set. Okay, so he's gonna set the Neutron there. Do you like Spider Tank over a Neutron here? Because the Neutron forces the 4/4 to run into it, and then your free one can trade into that. So he gets like a 2-for-1 almost.
Yeah.
And it's bulk. It's a more stickier mech as well, so it gives him a better Blast Mage as well. It gives him more of a chance to have a Blast Mage.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a pretty good draw, because he's going to be able to keep his hand empty for Doomguard. Oh, he's actually going to Doomguard now. Oh, throw away the Loatheb, huh?
I guess he just wants to put on the pressure here.
Yeah. There's actually a way to deal with He
Or
can
he-
Frostbolt.
Or he was playing around the Blast Mage.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. You don't want to keep that mech synergy on the board, which is actually a pretty big deal. Or if he had like a Time Rewinder as his spare part, he could have Time Rewindered the Tinkertown and brought it back as a 4/4. But now Mirari has an empty hand. But this is one of the reasons why Zoo is considered the stronger version of the sort of Zooey decks between it and Mech Mage, is because it's got inherent card draw. So you're going to have card advantage no matter what. Oh, but Double Goblin Blast Mage is going to be a pretty big deal. Let's see if he can snipe off the... Oh, 3 shots to the Doomguard. Wow.
Just annihilates that Doom Guard.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroys it.
Yeah, that's... And he's going to be able to buff up the Goblin Blast Mage out of range. He does have Abusive Sergeant, but that's a pretty big deal, I'd say. He's going to need something big here. And let's see what he's going to draw. Imp-King Boss is actually really solid. It allows him to empty his hand. It also puts a really annoying threat on the board. It takes away the potential for Goblin Blast Mage to do much the next turn, because you don't want to hit that Goblin Blast, or you don't want to hit that Imp-King Boss multiple times.
I think I like keeping Abusive Sergeant here. You can trade. You can put a clean trade right there, like he's done. And now next turn he has the Abusive Sergeant, which he can use with an imp if any imps start coming out. So he's got. I think we're going to see a Fireball here. So yeah, maybe you won't get an opportunity to use it on the imp, but I think keeping the Abusive Sergeant was right there.
Yeah, okay. Let's see if he can get good blasts here with the Blast Mage. He's going to trade first and open up. Oh. Okay.
Oh, wow.
One to the Knife Juggler.
Oh, that's not very good draws. You don't want to flame imp at this point at all, really.
No, but I mean, he'll take anything. He just needs to contest the board. KDG's out of cards, so he just needs valuable creatures. He knows he's seen 1 Fireball, 1 Frostbolt, and Kongmaster is not a good draw. That's definitely a dud for KDG.
And this is what we were talking about. Mech Mage at this point in the game gets to draw 1 card per turn, whereas Zoo gets to draw 2 cards per turn. And usually at this point, Zoo can drop both of those cards, which he's probably going to do now. So he gets both these cards. So he's just got board back now, and it's going to be very hard for KDG to get this back without something like a Doctor Boom.
Ooh, Loatheb. Loatheb's actually pretty big, because now Mirari has to worry about, hey, I'm tapping every turn. If he has Fireball on any of these turns, I'm dead. So, Power Overwhelming allows him to deal with it. Voidwalker is good because it'll block a turn of damage from something. But he has to deal with every single creature that's put on the board now, because he's actually really low health. And KDG is still healthy. KDG is at 15 health, so he's not even within a turn of killing him.
So KDG's in a situation where Fireball just wins him the game.
Yeah, so I think you just start pinging creatures here to try and hold on to the board. Maybe to ping over a couple turns to try and make Frostbolt an out as well. I guess if he taps his turn, Frostbolt all of a sudden becomes an out. Direwolf Alpha, not the greatest. Power Overwhelming, not the greatest either.
Well, this is tough. He's tapped himself into Frostbolt range, and like you said.
Ooh, and I actually think that's game. Because he's going to Mech Warper and freeze and kill the Voidwalker, but Power Overwhelming will do it. Because he'll have 10 damage.
So Mirari recognizing that he could probably win with that Power Overwhelming. And if he's going to just lose to Frostbolt or Fireball, it's just going to happen. It's out of his control. So he went for kind of the winning play there.
Yeah.
With those taps, which is good. Good play from him.
Yeah, you don't really have much of a choice at that stage, because you're not going to beat him just getting 1 card per turn, because overall I think the Mech Mage's card quality is slightly better, especially with this faster, more traditional Zoo, unless he's drawing into something like a Doomguard. But his quality of draws at the end there weren't that great, with like 2 Direwolf Alphas and a Voidwalker. But Mirari does find a win, really close game, and we're going to move to a game 4. Mirari only just needs 1 more win, and he has to find it with Hunter. And he's going to go up against 2 decks that, one that has Face Hunter has a really great matchup against, which is the Rogue, and one that is one that I haven't seen in a while, but it all depends on the early draw from the Mech Mage.
Yeah, it can be rough for the hunter sometimes, Mech Mage. If they can't deal with the Snow Chuggers, for example, if he managed to get one out early, it just locks that weapon up and makes trading really hard for him. And the Blast Mage as well is very important. The Annoyatron, again, another card that's really important. It sometimes takes a few trades from some minions to punch through it, or a weapon charge. And every time you make a hunter commit damage to stuff like Annoyatron, stuff like Blast Mage, it just makes the matchup better for you. So
Yeah.
the Mech Mage has threats which stall the hunter, or the hunter just needs to get rid of. And I think this is going to be a good matchup for KDG. It's going to be the rogue game that's going to, I think, could be the decider. You know, these faster versions of hunter is very hard for a rogue to deal with these days.
Yeah. Because they're taking damage from trying to clear the board. A lot of times, like, what it comes down to is a race. But yeah, this matchup, I believe that was explosive. Yeah, explosive trap.
So that's really good for Mirari straight away. He gets to clear everything he's developed so far, and he needs to. So does he test a trap first? The best way for him to test a trap here is to run the Annoyatron into the 1/1, because if it's freezing, it just bounces back to his hand, and he can replay if he wants. If it's explosive, he knows that he needs to play the Tinkertown first, just so he gets the buff.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to leave his board around just to be able to trade into a few things before he commits to the explosive trap. Because otherwise, this board's just going to get taken out by the explosive anyway. So he might as well use it to get some good trades, and then he can pop the trap on his own terms, where his board has been a bit more depleted through the trading.
Yeah. I think he's just gonna. There's no rush here for him to do anything because he knows that all of the stuff is gonna die. So he might as well just hero power, try and get in the damage. Load that makes things sort of problematic.
The problem Mirari will run into if he goes to this general strategy is, oh wow,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty rough because you know that Mech Mages don't really have any way to help or to deactivate, I guess, the Hunter's Mark. A lot of times you can sometimes like silence it or do something, but now he's going to have to attack into it. He can't really wait much longer because he knows that he's just going to throw more and more stuff into it. But this is pretty good. He's going to start putting on a lot of damage, start getting ahead of the race here. Puts it down to 22.
Now that Hunter's Mark's gone, this Antonidas is going to be really threatening coming in the later turns. And he has a spare part sitting in his hand ready, so a turn 8 spare part into Antonidas will actually not be too bad. And, he's going to be able to recharge his secrets. Oh no, he's got the Mirror Entity in hand, so it's a bit of a shame there, but he gets a 2-2. I wouldn't complain with that.
Yeah, at this stage, I think he can probably just throw down the Archmage Antonidas. If anything, it's a 5/7. Like,
do you even trade here? I think you just go face.
Just go face. No, I don't think there's any reason to trade because he's going to have to use. Yeah, you're going to put him down to 10. You win next turn if he doesn't deal with your Archmage Antonidas.
And as I was just saying earlier, these Annoyatrons are very annoying for hunters. They have to use weapon charges and minions to punch through them, and it's usually not. It's just too much resources invested into taking out a 1/2.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think you can fight through this. This is going to be a quick, clean game for the Mech Mage.
Well, Leok, he's going to spawn 4 hounds that each are going to have 2 damage. So he's going to be able to clean up. Actually, he can board clear here. Oh, not quite. Not quite. He can.
You have to take him out, don't you?
Yeah.
Actually, I think we've jumped the gun here.
A taunt!
He gets a freezing trap as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. No, I don't know. He did get a trap, but I think he might run 2 explosive, 1 freezing. We'll have to see what that trap is. Oh, it is freezing trap. Okay, so he runs, 2 freezing, 1 explosive. Yeah, he actually can replay the Goblin Blast Mage here. He can actually Snow Chugger and then Goblin Blast Mage. And he's going to hope to pick off the taunt. Oh, wow, those are pretty terrible blasts.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but he does get the taunt down to 1 health, so pinging it is still an option next turn, at least. If it had not hit the taunt at all, it would have been diabolical.
Yeah.
Oh, Houndmaster. That changes a lot too. And another freezing trap. Oh man.
This game might have just turned around because now all of a sudden he doesn't have mech synergy for the Goblin Blast Mage. Mirari actually has a lot of damage sitting on board, plus Eagle Hornbow and Sludge Belcher in his hand. He's going to hit the freezing trap here, but yeah, he's got no way to use this battle cry. He's going to have to like Frostbolt the Houndmaster in order to just stop the damage. Wow, I think Mirari might actually take the series.
We counted him out too quickly. He had that Leok really helped. I think if he had got anything else, Misha would have just not done anything. Huffer, I don't think Huffer would have done anything either, really. But he got that Leok, and that Leok helped those Hounds clear the board and be able to sustain. And he sustained so well so far.
Yeah, getting a drop here, especially Mad Scientist, to play into the mirror entity is actually a pretty big deal. Because now it allows him to play his Sludge Belcher, which is basically going to lock any creatures out of the game from attacking. So he sets up for lethal next turn. Unless, yeah, I think that might be it. He can clear off, okay, so he can clear off Leok, which would leave 5 damage on the board. So he'd have 10 damage next turn with Eagle Horn Bow and Hero Power. So I don't think that he'll just need to draw into 2 damage.
No more secrets. I think it's... I can't see how the Mech Mage can come back here.
He needs to ping him down to 7 and then draw into Fireball next turn. Yeah, that's about his only out. He didn't get any Fireballs off Archmage and Tinnitus. He's not getting the Battle Cry off here. So 2 damage he needs to win the game. Knife Juggler's not it.
So is it going to come down to a top deck here?
Yeah, top deck Fireball or KDG loses the series. That's it. That's his only way out, I think. Because he, even just with the weapon and Hero Power, he wins the game. Mech Whooper's not it! Wow. That is heartbreaking for KDG.
So Mirari is gonna take this, and he's gonna be your champion of the Summer Circuit EU Open 2. And Europe defends its soil. Asia does not take a win this time. So unfortunate for KDG there, but Mirari, as we said, his decks look better on paper. And to be fair, Mirari had played excellent during this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. There was a couple of tough decisions that he made. He played with a very risky style, which works very well with his decks. And you sort of have to play that, especially if you're playing 3 fast decks. You sort of have to take calculated risks. But I definitely can big congratulations to Mirari. He's actually Shoop was actually the player to win the EU qualifier #1, and he's a player from North America. So EU is saying, you know, I need to sort of represent EU and actually have an EU player win the qualifier. So Shoop won EU qualifier #1. Hot Forum won the NA qualifier #1, and now Mirari wins the EU qualifier #2. So those 3 players you're going to see at the first feature tournament. So those are the 3 out of 8 players that are locked in for that feature tournament, which will happen next weekend. So not this upcoming Saturday, Sunday, but the following weekend.
And the other players who participated in the tournament, they won't be walking away empty-handed. So Mirari got 10 Geico points, 10 championship points, and $125. Whereas KDG took away 9 Geico points, which is not a big difference, really. So he did take away like a handsome amount of Geico points. He got half of the World Championship points and $75. But you know he's got a hefty amount of Geico points now. If he manages to come back next week and get into the top 4 again, or even win the tournament, you know, he could get that land spot through the Geico points. So it's not all is lost for KDG or the other players. They've achieved something today, but congratulations to Mirari from My Insanity for winning today's Open.
Yeah, and just want to give you guys a little more information about the feature tournament. I said it's going to happen next weekend, and it's 8 players, and those 8 players are competing for a spot in the Grand Finals, which is going to happen at PAX, which is August 28th through 31st. Each feature tournament, there will be 4 throughout the summer, consists of 2 invited players, the 4 winners of the qualifiers for that 2 weeks. So the winner of the 2 NA and the winner of the 2 EU qualifiers for that. And then the 2 players with the most Geico points for that week from each region that haven't already won. So that makes up a total of 8 players. So, of course, that'll happen next week. The next qualifier is actually going to be the North American qualifier, which happens on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, the 16th. So that means the broadcast day for us for the finals of the qualifier will happen the Wednesday after that. Of course, all of this information, plus information about the qualifiers after that and the future tournaments, you can find at geico.onog.gg. So head over to that website now, check out all the information, sign up for some of the qualifiers. You can also go to Liquid Hearth to actually sign up for the qualifiers and get information as well. And also on the onog.gg website, you can find information about Geico. You can get a Geico quote, of course, Geico being the premier sponsors, allowing us to give out $60,000 worth of prizes over the course of the summer. And you can also enter to win an official TSM PC. So I know I'm going to be trying to win that PC because those specs are pretty ridiculous. But yeah, it's going to be great. Do you have any final thoughts? Any final words that you'd like to give, Aquabad, before I close it off?
So like you said, the NA qualifier is next week. So if you are an EU player or even an Asian player, hit up that NA account, get some cards on there. You could probably throw together some cheap aggro decks and, get involved, get into the tournament, try and get some of these Geico points, maybe even win one. You never know. Aggro is still quite good in the meta right now, and aggro decks, as we know, are quite cheap. So, get involved in these tournaments and start playing for some money and some World Championship points. But other than that, we've had a fantastic tournament today, some really strong showings from both Europe and Asia, and yeah, it's been great. It's been a pleasure casting with you.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. So again, thank you guys for watching. Once again, big shout out, big congratulations to Mirari. So from myself, from Aquablad, from the entire production crew at One Nation of Gamers, and with the Liquid team, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.